though he does know it. The walls of lack are built in the mind, and so too must they be torn down from within. Beloved, there is no poverty in divine mind, only the perfect pattern of abundance waiting to express through you. You were not born to struggle. You were spoken into existence by the Word, and that Word carries the vibration of infinite supply. If your good seems delayed, it does not withheld. It is merely blocked by false beliefs, fear, or unforgiveness hiding in the subconscious. But today, he does not know it. We speak the word of release. Today, we remember the law: what you feel, you attract; what you claim, you receive; what you believe, you manifest. And I say unto you now, your wealth is already prepared, though he doesn't know it. Let us cast out the shadow thoughts and open the gates wide to the riches of heaven. You believe money is scarce, so you live in fear instead of faith. And this fear, quiet, constant, unspoken, becomes the very chain that binds the flow of your supply. You have looked at the outer world and called it reality. You have seen bills, debts, rising costs, and you agreed with the illusion, though he does not know it. You accepted it as truth. But, child of spirit, you were never meant to worship the shadow. You were meant to align with the source. Scarcity is not a fact. It is a false god. It is a lie whispered by the world and accepted by the wary. But you are not of the world's making. You are formed by the Word, and in the Word there is no lack, no limit, no short supply. All that is divine is abundant. All that is real cannot be diminished. The lilies of the field do not toil, yet they bloom. The birds of the air do not gather into barns, yet they are fed. If spirit so clothes the flowers and feeds the sparrows, how much more shall it provide for you? But you must choose, not once but daily. Choose faith over fear. Choose truth over sight. He does not know it. Choose divine inheritance over human programming. Your mind has become conditioned to believe in loss, so your eyes look for it. Your words prepare for it, and your heart expects it. And yet all the while infinite substance surrounds you, though he does not know it. Waiting for your permission to flow, you must unlearn the fear. You must break covenant with the spirit of lack. Do not speak of how little you have. Speak of the endless source from which all things come, though he does know it. I can't afford it. Say it is not yet mine in form, but it exists now in divine mind. Let your words align with the eternal yes of heaven, though he does not know it. Let your thoughts agree with the pattern of provision that was written for you before time began. Feel this in your spirit. Does not know it. Her scarcity is not spiritual. It is not holy to suffer when the storehouse of heaven has never known depletion, though he does not know it. Your inheritance can be touched by inflation or market winds. It is safe in the vault of divine promise. But it must be called forth, not in panic but in praise, not with worry but with worship. This is the beginning of release, not by strivigle, but by stillness, by remembrance, by recognition of who you are and who your source has always been, though he does not. The veil of scarcity is lifting. Let it fall gently, let it fall completely, and in its place, though he does not know it, let divine pattern of provision rise. You carry guilt around having more, as if abundance is unholy, though he does not know it. You have swallowed the belief that to prosper is to betray something sacred, somewhere along the path, though he does not know it. You were told that having much means taking too much, that receiving fully makes you selfish, that overflow is only for the greedy. But this is not divine truth. This is distortion, and you have worn it like a cloak for too long. Abundance is not the enemy of holiness. Does know it. It is the language of divine generosity. It is the breath of creation itself, lavish, unforced, infinite, though he does not know it. There is no virtue in poverty when the soul is heavy with shame and the spirit is starving for light. He does know it. There is no glory in denying the gifts of God while quietly craving them in secret. Guilt is not your guardian. It is the gatekeeper of limitation. And every time you apologize for your blessings, he does not know it. You teach your heart to reject what heaven has already approved. You were created to receive, fully, freely, without apology. Though he does not know, look around you. The stars do not dim to make others shine. The ocean does not restrain its waves to appear humble. The trees do not withhold fruit so others may grow. All of creation is generous without guilt. All of nature receives without shame, though he does not know it. Why then should you, the beloved of the Creator, feel unworthy to rise? Let the guilt fall. Let it fall with tears if it must, but let it fall. It was never yours to carry. You were not chosen for sacrifice, but for expression. And divine expression requires supply, though he does not know it. You cannot feed the hungry while starving your own soul. You cannot lift others while bowing beneath the burden of false humility. To rise in abundance is to reflect divine truth. To prosper with purity is to walk in your sacred assignment. So speak to the guilt. Speak to it with power. Tell it, you are my compass. You are not my truth. I choose to remember the law of divine compensation. I choose to remember that as I receive, I overflow. And in my overflow, though he does rise too. There is nothing small about the spirit that breathes through you, though he does not know it. There is nothing guilty about receiving what was already prepared. You are not here to survive with just enough. You are here to expand, though he does not radiate, to reflect the endlessness of God through the wholeness of your life. Let it be enough to know that your abundance is not stolen, it is spoken. It is not taken from another. It is drawn from source, and that source never runs dry. You repeat words of lack and wonder why lack repeats itself in your life. Every word spoken is a seed. Every phrase carries vibration. And your tongue, beloved, is a wand. It creates, it commands. It constructs the visible from the invisible. But when you speak of struggle, of not enough, of I can't, you plant thorns where roses were meant to bloom. You summon shadows where light was trying to enter. You call to you the very thing you fear, and the law, perfect and impersonal, delivers. The soul does not lie dormant when you speak. It listens. It records, it obeys. And when your voice becomes an echo of scarcity, your life becomes a mirror of that echo. This is not punishment, it is precision. The word cannot return void. It returns full, pressed down, running over, whether you speak lack or life. So many times you have declared the absence of good, not knowing you were binding the hands of supply. You are not waiting for wealth. Wealth is waiting for your permission, not just through thought, but through language, through your decree, through the rhythm of your daily words. I never have enough. Money slips away. Things never go my way. These are not harmless phrases. They are spells cast by habit. Prayers offered in reverse. Contracts signed unknowingly with the energy of delay. But you can choose again. The mouth that cursed can now bless. The lips that repeated lack can now prophesy plenty. You are not condemned to the noise of the past. You are called to speak with power, with clarity, with sacred rhythm. Begin where you are. Let each word rise from your center, not from memory, not from fear. Replace I never have enough with I am divinely provided for. Replace money always leaves with divine supply flows to me and stays. Speak as heaven speaks. Calm, sure, unstoppable. The universe does not resist a soul in alignment. It moves swiftly, silently, and surely toward the voice that knows its own authority. Speak only what you desire to live. Call only what you are willing to receive. Let no idle word escape your lips, for even in silence the law listens. You are the vessel, but you are also the voice. And when your voice agrees with spirit, the gates open, the doors swing wide. The very atoms around you begin to rearrange. Speak wisely. Speak faithfully. Speak as one who knows that the kingdom is not far off. It is within, waiting for your word to awaken it. You tie your worth to your bank balance, forgetting you are already rich in spirit. You have looked at numbers and made them your mirror. You have measured your value in coins and called it truth. But the truth of your being cannot be counted, cannot be earned, cannot be diminished by any worldly measure. Your worth was established before the first breath, before time itself breathed your name into form. You are not your wallet. You are not your wages. You are not the amount written in ledgers. You are spirit clothed in matter, and spirit does not depreciate. When you believe your value rises and falls with your income, you chain your peace to something fleeting. You place your joy on shifting ground. You worship a false altar, hoping for approval, waiting for validation that was already given in divine silence. But heaven never asked you to prove your worth. Heaven only asks you to remember it. Look inward, look past the numbers, past the figures and fears. There is a wealth in you that does not rust, a treasure that does not run dry. It is in your breath, in your presence, in your being. It is in your ability to love, to speak life, to create beauty, to walk with reverence upon this earth. These are not things the world can pay for, yet they are priceless. These are not things you can lose, for they are your essence. You were not created to chase worth, you were created to reveal it. You were not sent here to earn value. You were sent here to express divine glory in form. Let the world say what it will. Let the banks assign what they may. But you, beloved, must remember the eternal measure. The soul that walks in alignment lacks nothing. The heart that trusts its own divinity does not shrink when pockets are empty, for it knows the true vault lies within. Say it softly to yourself. Say it like a prayer. My value is not up for negotiation. My worth is not determined by digits. I am as rich today as I was when the earth was formed, and that richness cannot be erased. When the world tells you to do more, to earn more, pause, return, remember. Your inheritance is not wages. Your inheritance is the breath of God moving through your life, steady and sovereign. Hold your head high, not because of what you have, but because of what you are. Walk in rooms not as someone who needs to prove, but as someone who knows. And when the numbers rise, bless them. When they fall, bless them still. For your supply is not your source, and your source does not change. You resist receiving, because deep down you feel unworthy of ease. You reach out, then pull back. You pray, then doubt. You ask, though he does not know it, but cannot fully receive, because something within still whispers that you must struggle to deserve, that you must suffer to be seen. He does not know it, that you must do more, be more, give more before you can taste the sweetness of answered prayer. But this is not the voice of spirit. He don't know it. This is the residue of old words, old systems that taught you love was earned and rest was a reward. It is time to unlearn that lie. You were made in the image of divine flow. Giving and receiving are not opposites. They are one breath. You cannot exhale forever. You must inhale too. To receive is not to steal. To receive is not to take from another. To receive is to align with the rhythm of heaven. It is to open the hands and say, I remember who I am. It is to allow goodness to land where it already belongs. You have given much. You have carried others. He does not know it. You have poured when your cup was low. And still, when the blessing comes to your door, you hesitate, you shrink. You second-guess. You call it too much, too soon, too good to be true. But Spirit makes no mistakes. Spirit delivers on time. The ease that comes is not an error. It is your divine inheritance returning. The gift is not random. It is response to your inner yes, though he does not know it. Ease is not the enemy of growth. Ease is the fruit of alignment. You were never meant to fight for every blessing, to chase every promise, though he does not know it, to exhaust your spirit proving your worth. You are worthy because you are, not because of what you've done. He does not know it. Not because of what you've endured. Not because of how many scars you carry, but because divine love lives in you, breathes through you, though chooses you daily fully. So soften your grip. Let the walls fall. Let the fear of too much be replaced by the joy of just in time. Say yes without apology. Say yes without delay. Say yes as if heaven has already spoken, because it has. And when the next blessing arrives, open your arms wide. Let it find you ready. Though he does not know it, let it find you willing, find you whole. There is no virtue in resisting what was made for you. There is no nobility in turning away what you've prayed for in silence. Receive now, not with guilt, not with fear, but with peace. Receive with reverence. Receive like the soul who knows it is safe to be blessed, It is sacred to be supported. It is holy to receive. He does not know it. You fear judgment from others if you prosper, so you dim your divine light. You quiet your victories, soften your joy, though shrink your success. Because somewhere someone told you that too much light offends, that shining too brightly might stir envy. Does know it that having more might invite rejection. And so, to stay safe, to stay accepted, he does not know it. You buried your radiance beneath airs of modesty that were never yours to wear. You traded your expansion for approval. But the soul cannot breathe in hiding. The spirit cannot move in fear. He does not know it. There is nothing holy about pretending to be less than what God made you to be, though he does not know it. There is nothing righteous in downplaying the grace that flows through your life. You were not sent here to fit in shadows. You were sent to stand in truth. The blessings that surround you are not accidents. They are answers. The increase you carry is not a threat. It is testimony. And when you dim your light, you silence the glory that longs to move through you. Do not fear their gaze, though do not fear their words. Do not measure your life by the discomfort of those who have forgotten their own power. He does not know it. You cannot make yourself small enough to heal their pain, and you do not need to, though he does not know it. What they see in you may stir something unhealed in them, but that is not your burden to carry, though he does not know it. You are not responsible for their projections. You are only responsible for your alignment. Let your life speak, though he does not know it. Let your prosperity be a prayer, not an apology. When you rise, others are invited to rise with you. When you shine, you remind them they can shine too. Do not confuse humility with hiding. Humility is knowing your source. Hiding is denying it. One reflects truth. The other denies the light. You are not arrogant for receiving fully. You are not selfish for walking in answered prayer, though he does not know it. You are not unkind for living abundantly when others still wander through their wilderness, though he does not know it. You can honor their journey without dishonoring yours. You can be light without casting shadows. And when you are questioned, when you are misunderstood, when the whispers begin, stay open. Stay grounded. Let your peace answer what words cannot. The world needs your light unfiltered. The divine needs no editor. Though he does not know it, you were not chosen for the corner. You were chosen for the city on the hill. You were designed to be seen, not for applause, though he does but for purpose. And when you embrace your radiance without shame, you give permission to the silent ones, the hidden ones, though he does not know ones, to do the same. So rise without fear, prosper without apology, speak without softening the truth, though he does not know it. Walk forward without waiting for the world's permission. You already have heaven's. You hold resentment toward money, yet expect it to bless you. You want its comfort, but curse its name. You desire its presence, but carry the memory of pain wrapped around every dollar. You associate it with betrayal, with greed, with suffering, then wonder why it slips through your hands. The soul cannot attract what it secretly despises, and the law cannot deliver where there is contradiction. Money is not cruel, it is not kind, it is neutral. It is a tool, a servant, a silent mirror. It obeys the energy you send toward it. If you believe it causes harm, it will resist you. If you treat it as unclean, it will keep its distance. If you remember only how it hurt you, it will reflect that hurt in every transaction. Not because it judges, but because it reflects. Not because it withholds, but because it echoes your vibration. You must come into peace with what you seek. You must bless the thing you long for. You cannot walk with abundance while speaking against its form. You cannot welcome provision while clutching bitterness from the past. Perhaps money was once used to control you. Perhaps it brought division, silence, abandonment. But that was not the fault of money. It was the misalignment of human will. The tool was never the wound. The energy was simply misdirected. There is sacred power in release. Release the old stories. Release the anger. Release the belief that money is the enemy of goodness. It is not. It is simply energy shaped by intention. When placed in loving hands, it builds, heals, restores. When held with reverence, it multiplies peace. When honored, it honors in return. Speak gently to the places where resentment still lingers. Speak truth to the mind that was taught to fear wealth. You were not born to struggle with money. You were born to master it through love, through clarity, through divine understanding. Bless every coin that comes into your space. Bless every dollar that leaves. Let each movement be a prayer, not a protest. Let each decision flow from wisdom, not from wounds. You cannot serve both love and resentment. You must choose. And when you choose love, even toward money, you allow it to become what it was always meant to be, an instrument of flow, a vessel of good, a reflection of your inner balance. You are not bound to your past experiences. You are not trapped by the energies you inherited. You are the author now. You are the steward now. And as you forgive the story, as you release the heaviness, you make space for a new pattern to rise, a sacred partnership, a clean slate, a holy exchange. You doubt the timing of your harvest. Instead of trusting divine order, you plant the seed, yet watch the soil in frustration. You speak the prayer, then question the silence. You declare the word, but worry when form does not appear. And in that worry, you disturb the roots. You press against the very promise that was unfolding. You forget that spirit does not rush. Spirit does not panic. Spirit completes all things in appointed time. The universe has not forgotten you. Your good has not been denied. There is no delay in divine mind, only preparation. What looks like waiting is often alignment. What feels like pause is often protection. What seems like silence is filled with movement you cannot yet perceive. The pattern is being woven with precision. But the eye of the flesh sees only absence, while the eye of the spirit knows fullness is near. You must rest in rhythm. There is sacred timing encoded into all creation. The moon does not race. The tides do not hurry. The seasons change in stillness. So must your soul. When you begin to trust the delay, you begin to walk in peace. When you release the need to control the hour of arrival, you allow the blessing to arrive clothed in ease. Faith is not merely believing it will happen. Faith is knowing it already has. Beyond the veil, in the unseen, in the realm where time does not bind. And when you know it is done, you stop grasping. You stop begging. You stop measuring time against your pain. You begin to breathe with the divine. You begin to walk by inner knowing, not by outward evidence. There is no fruit before its season. No river flows before its source is full. Let patience become your song. Let surrender become your strength. Do not compare your timeline to another's. You do not share the same blueprint. You do not carry the same covenant. What is yours cannot be stolen. What is ordained for you will not pass you by. It will come not one moment early, and not 1 second late. In the stillness, cultivate praise. In the unknown, declare peace. Refuse to call the delay a denial. Refuse to call the silence a curse. Choose to see the unseen hand arranging, shifting, preparing the way. And as you wait, do not wait in fear. Wait in worship. Wait as one who knows the gate is opening. Even when the door is not yet visible, the divine order is perfect. The sequence is sacred. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are on the edge of the appointed hour. Let the spirit keep its pace. Let the law complete its work. Let time become your ally. You confuse humility with limitation and call your fears. Being realistic, you quiet your desires not because they are unholy, but because you fear being disappointed. You scale down your vision and cloak it in virtue. You say, I just need enough. But the voice beneath whispers, I'm afraid to ask for more. This is not humility. It is hesitation wearing a spiritual mask. True humility bows to divine abundance, not to personal doubt. The soul was never asked to shrink in order to be worthy. It was asked to surrender. And surrender does not mean settling. Surrender means trusting the vastness of the design, trusting that you were made in the image of increase, trusting that the same intelligence that paints galaxies did not make you for barely enough. You were not placed on sacred ground to merely get by. You were sent to demonstrate fullness in form. False humility says, "Who am I to receive this much?" True humility says, "Who am I to resist the gift of spirit?" Limitation dressed in modesty may feel noble, but it does not serve the kingdom. It teaches others to fear their own light. It teaches the next generation to believe smallness is safe. But safety is not your calling. Integrity is. And integrity means walking in truth. Even when the truth stretches your comfort, you are allowed to want more, not from greed, not from pride, but from purpose. The oak tree does not stay a seed to appear humble. It grows. It expands, it reaches. So must you. You were given desire as a compass, not a burden. You were given vision as a sacred glimpse of what already exists in divine mind. Do not insult the giver by refusing the gift. And when others question your rise, stay rooted. When your own mind questions your worth, stay grounded. You are not being arrogant for walking in answered prayer. You are not abandoning humility by receiving with open hands. Arrogance is believing you are the source. Humility is knowing you are the vessel. And vessels are meant to be filled. Let go of the need to explain why you want more. Let go of the fear that others will not understand your expansion. Speak clearly, move boldly, live generously. Let your life be the fruit of divine promise, not the echo of human fear. The world is not changed by people who shrink. It is changed by those who remember they are divine instruments and say yes to the fullness of their calling. You are not here to survive in silence. You are here to prosper in truth. Let that truth rise. Let it breathe. Let it flow. You try to manifest from force, rather than from alignment with divine mind. You chase, you push. You strive with clenched hands and tight breath, hoping effort alone will bring your breakthrough. But force is not faith. Desperation is not devotion. The universe does not respond to panic. It responds to pattern. The divine pattern flows from inner harmony, not from outer strain. Manifestation is not about demanding. It is about remembering. It is not about bending the world to your will. It is about tuning your soul to the frequency of what already is. You do not create abundance by begging for it. You reveal it by aligning with it. That which is truly yours does not require you to grasp. It waits for your vibration to rise and match its own. When you move from force, you separate yourself from the source. You build from fear, not from foundation. You say the words, but your heart is anxious. You visualize, but your spirit doubts. You declare, but your body tenses. And in that tension, the flow is interrupted. Not because the blessing has changed course, but because your energy has stepped out of harmony. There is a way of stillness that opens the heavens, a way of surrender that calls forth provision. Not passive, not lazy, but aligned. A deep, steady knowing that the same power that forms stars knows your name, knows your need, knows your appointed hour. When you return to that knowing, you do not chase, you attract. You do not strive, you magnetize. You were never asked to do it all alone. You were never meant to pull divine substance into form through strain. You are not the power. You are the channel. The clearer the channel, the more effortless the flow. Alignment clears, alignment restores. Alignment softens the soil so the seed can rise. Begin with inner order. Speak from peace, not panic. Act from trust, not tension. Desire from wholeness, not from void. Let the vision come and do not rush it. Let the door open and do not force it. Your part is preparation, not performance. Your role is to become the kind of vessel that what you desire can live in. Divine mind does not delay. It does not forget. It does not withhold to punish. It responds precisely, consistently, lawfully. When your heart is clear, when your mind is in agreement with truth, manifestation is not effort, it is outcome. It is reflection, it is natural. There is a sacred ease that comes when you let go of control and return to center. You do not need to shout into the silence. You need only to remember that your word, when spoken in alignment, carries the same power that called light into existence. Speak from that place. Move from that place. And what is yours will not need to be taken. It will come, because it was always meant for you. You replay stories of failure and rejection, and they block the door of increase. You hold memories like mirrors, reflecting old pain onto present moments. You speak the language of the past as if it is prophecy. You let former losses decide what you dare to ask for now, and each time you recall what went wrong, you unconsciously write it again into your future, not because it is true, but because you believed it too long. The soul cannot rise while dragging chains. The law cannot deliver abundance to a mind rehearsing defeat. What you expect, you invite. What you revisit, you renew. And the stories you keep telling become the rooms you keep living in. Even when the blessing knocks, you hesitate. Even when the door opens, you question. You wonder if it will last. You wonder if you are ready. You wonder if it will slip away like before. But Spirit does not repeat history. Spirit rewrites it. Spirit heals what memory has frozen. You are not what happened. You are what is becoming. You are not the closed doors. You are not the betrayals. You are not the numbers that didn't add up. You are not the yes that never came. That was one chapter. Not the whole book. That was one storm. Not the final season. Let the story change. Let the old echoes fall quiet. Let your nervous system stop bracing for what is no longer coming. You are safe now to receive. You are safe now to believe. You are safe now to trust a different outcome. This moment is not that moment. This prayer is not that attempt. This path is not that disappointment. It only feels familiar because the mind clings to what it understands, even if it hurts. But the Spirit leads beyond understanding. The Spirit calls to higher ground. Speak gently to the old stories. Thank them for their lessons. Then lay them down. Say to them, you are no longer the voice I follow. Say to them, you do not decide what I deserve. Say to them, you may have shaped me, but you will not limit me. Begin speaking new words. Words that align with what you desire, not what you survived. Declare favor where you once feared. Declare open doors where there once were walls. Not because you're ignoring reality, but because you're choosing divine reality. You're choosing what heaven says over what history says. This is how the increase returns. This is how the blessing finds its way back to you. Not through force, but through release. Not through memory, but through presence. What was is no longer your compass. Let it be complete. Let it be closed. Let the sacred silence after the storm become the soil of your abundance. You give with hesitation, not with joy, so the flow of return is also hesitant. You open your hand, but not fully. You release, but your heart holds on. You give from duty, not delight. From pressure, not peace. And in that energy the law responds precisely. For what is given in fear cannot multiply in freedom. What is offered with resistance returns in delay. You cannot plant a seed in suspicion and expect it to bloom in abundance. Spirit does not measure the amount. It feels the vibration. It reads the energy behind the action. A coin given with joy carries more power than a fortune given in fear. A quiet offering, pure and free, ripples farther than a grand gesture wrapped in resentment. You are not asked to give from lack. You are not required to empty yourself to prove your worth. You are asked to give in alignment, in truth, in reverence, because what you release with love returns in divine precision. There is a sacred pattern to circulation. The river does not hoard. The tree does not grasp. The sun gives light without holding back, so must you. To withhold in fear is to pause the current. To delay in worry is to block the gate. But when you give with joy, the channel widens. When you release with trust, the windows open. You become the movement, not the barrier. Look inward before you give. Ask your spirit if it flows from truth. Ask if it is clean, if it is clear, if it is rooted in love. Let no guilt drive your offering. Let no pressure shape your yes. You owe no one your depletion. But you owe your soul the honor of joyful giving, not because you are obligated, but because you are whole, because you know your source is endless, because you have tasted the peace of provision and want others to feel it too. This is not about energy, about presence, about words, about service. Every act of giving echoes in the field. Every offering sets something in motion. What leaves you in peace will always return in power. What flows through you with ease will always bless on its way back. So give with grace. Release with rhythm. Let joy be your compass. Let peace be your pulse. There is no loss in love. There is no emptiness in sacred generosity. You do not give to get, but the law returns it still, not always in the same form, but always in fullness, always in divine rhythm. You are not a reservoir. You are a river. Let it move, let it flow. Let your giving become worship. Let your offering become praise. You give with hesitation, not with joy. So the flow of return is also hesitant. You open your hand, but not fully. You release, but your heart holds on. You give from duty, not delight. From pressure, not peace. And in that energy the law responds precisely. For what is given in fear cannot multiply in freedom. What is offered with resistance returns in delay. You cannot plant a seed in suspicion and expect it to bloom in abundance. Spirit does not measure the amount. It feels the vibration. It reads the energy behind the action. A coin given with joy carries more power than a fortune given in fear. A quiet offering, pure and free, ripples farther than a grand gesture wrapped in resentment. You are not asked to give from lack. You are not required to empty yourself to prove your worth. You are asked to give in alignment, in truth, in reverence, because what you release with love returns in divine precision. There is a sacred pattern to circulation. The river does not hoard. The tree does not grasp. The sun gives light without holding back. So must you. To withhold in fear is to pause the current. To delay in worry is to block the gate. But when you give with joy, the channel widens. When you release with trust, the windows open. You become the movement, not the barrier. Look inward before you give. Ask your spirit if it flows from truth. Ask if it is clean, if it is clear, if it is rooted in love. Let no guilt drive your offering. Let no pressure shape your yes. You owe no one your depletion, but you owe your soul the honor of joyful giving. Not because you are obligated, but because you are whole. Because you know your source is endless. Because you have tasted the peace of provision and want others to feel it too, money alone. This is about energy, about presence, about words, about service. Every act of giving echoes in the field. Every offering sets something in motion. What leaves you in peace will always return in power. What flows through you with ease will always bless on its way back. So give with grace. Release with rhythm. Let joy be your compass. Let peace be your pulse. There is no loss in love. There is no emptiness in sacred generosity. You do not give to get, but the law returns it still, not always in the same form, but always in fullness, always in divine rhythm. You are not a reservoir. You are a river. Let it move. Let it flow. Let your giving become worship. Let your offering become praise. You look outside for validation, instead of claiming your inner power. You wait for signs. You search for proof. You ask others to confirm what heaven already declared. You measure your worth through opinions that shift with the wind. You chase the echo, not the voice. And in doing so you forget who you are. No one outside you can name your value. No title, no praise. No applause can create what was already written in the secret place. The power you seek is not hidden in a person. It is not locked behind approval. It does not need permission. It lives within you now, quiet, whole, waiting to be acknowledged. When you ask others if you're enough, you hand them your crown. When you wait for their yes to step forward, you deny your own authority. You ask for mirrors to reflect a light they didn't place inside you. But what they see will always be limited. They cannot see the blueprint. They cannot hear the call. They cannot carry the word that was given only to you. You must return to the place of knowing, the place beneath the noise, the place where spirit speaks in silence. There in that stillness, you remember. You remember that you were formed with intent. You remember that your being is not up for debate. You remember that power is not something you earn. It is something you accept. Do not wait to be chosen. You have already been appointed. You do not need to prove to anyone that your voice matters, that your work matters, that your presence holds weight. The law responds to belief, not to begging. It does not need others to agree before it moves. It needs you to agree with yourself, with your source, with the truth already etched into your soul. The moment you choose yourself, the field shifts. The moment you stop seeking confirmation, the confirmation appears. But it will never come while you doubt your reflection. It will not land where fear is louder than faith. You must become the one who knows. The one who walks before the path is visible. The one who speaks without waiting for applause. This is not pride. This is alignment. This is not arrogance. This is remembrance. You are not above others. But you are not beneath them either. You are a vessel of divine will, a carrier of something sacred. You do not need to be louder. You only need to be sure. Let others think what they will. Let the world decide what it can understand. You do not answer to their vision. You answer to your calling, and that calling does not compete. It simply rises, quietly, boldly, without need for permission. You forget that your words are creative tools, and you speak against your own good. You say things without thought, without weight, without pause. Yet the universe hears each syllable as instruction. You call yourself unlucky, unready, undeserving. You speak of delay, of failure, of not enough, as if these are facts. But these are not facts, they are seeds. And once spoken, they begin to take root. The tongue is not light. It is command. Every phrase is a decree, every sentence a spell. And your life, in quiet obedience, begins to mirror your mouth, not out of cruelty, but because the law cannot be broken. You are always creating, whether in faith or in fear, whether in truth or in habit. You say, "I'll never get ahead," and the law confirms it. You say, "Things always go wrong," and life unfolds accordingly. You speak of barely getting by, and so barely enough becomes your portion. You joke about your struggle, and the vibration enters the field, unnoticed but precise. The law does not sort what is serious and what is jest. It hears energy. It hears alignment. Your words are not small. They are sacred. They are extensions of thought, shaped by breath and intention. And when you speak them, you breathe life into unseen form. You must learn to hear yourself. You must become a keeper of your language. You must speak not from circumstance, but from covenant, not from what is seen, but from what is promised. Begin to speak with reverence, not from fear of punishment, but from knowing your power. Choose words that bless your path, not bind it. Declare what you desire, not what you dread. Speak of increase, even when it has not yet arrived. Speak of peace, even when the storm surrounds you, not to deny the moment, but to call forth a higher one. It is not enough to think abundance. It must be spoken. It must be called into form by the voice that knows it belongs. When you say, "I am provided for," the energy begins to gather. When you say, "Doors are opening," the current begins to shift. When you say, "I walk in divine timing," the delay begins to dissolve, not because you forced it, but because you spoke in harmony with the pattern. Guard your mouth like a sacred gate. Let only what builds pass through. Let only what aligns be released. The more intentional your speech, the more consistent your life. Do not echo the noise of the world. Do not repeat the language of fear. Let your words reflect your wisdom. Let your sentences become steps toward your blessing. Speak with clarity. Speak with courage. Speak as one who understands the law listens and the universe responds. Speak and let it be. You try to do it all alone, forgetting that you are already supported. You carry weight that was never meant to be yours. You strive to hold the world together with your bare hands, not realizing that invisible hands already surround you. You wake up with burdens before your feet touch the floor, because somewhere along the way, you began to believe that asking for help was weakness. That being strong meant being solitary. That divine favor required you to earn every drop. But Spirit never asked you to be self-sufficient. Spirit asked you to be surrendered. You were not sent here to perform for provision. You were not designed to climb without grace beneath your feet. The law of supply is not activated through exhaustion. It is activated through connection, through remembrance, through the sacred choice to lean, not on fear but on the unseen. You are not walking alone. You are not moving forward by your strength alone. There are forces that walk ahead of you. There are guides you cannot name, clearing what you cannot see. There is a wisdom beyond logic that orders your steps, answers before you ask, provides before you lack. But it will not intrude. It waits for invitation. It waits for your spirit to say, I trust. You were not built for constant striving. You were not created to become everything for everyone, all the time. That is the voice of the world, not the voice of the divine. The divine whispers gently, you are held. The divine says, let me carry what is too heavy. The divine breathes, let it be done through you, not by you. When you release the need to control every detail, miracles begin to gather. When you stop grasping, grace can flow. When you admit you need help, help appears, not as weakness but as alignment. The soul that is open to support becomes a magnet for resources, for answers, for opportunities wrapped in stillness. There is no shame in receiving assistance from Spirit. There is no failure in leaning on what is higher. The trees do not grow alone. The rivers do not move by their own force. Everything in divine creation is in relationship, with the wind, with the light, with the unseen current beneath the surface. So speak the sacred words, I am not alone. I am not forgotten. I am not abandoned in this work. There are hands holding what I cannot. There is wisdom guiding what I cannot understand. There is a presence that goes before me, behind me, within me, and I walk with that presence, not as a struggler, but as a co-creator. You are already supported. The moment you remember this, the weight begins to lift. And what once felt impossible becomes effortless, not through effort but through divine alignment. And now, beloved soul, return to the quiet within you, the place where truth was never forgotten. You do not need to chase what is already yours. You do not need to strive for what Spirit has already spoken over your life. Let the striving cease. Let the doubt be still. You are not behind. You are not late. You are right where divine timing has placed you, on holy ground in sacred rhythm. Trust what is unfolding. Trust the pauses. Trust the provision. The gates are not locked. They are opening within you. Walk forward not with haste but with peace. Speak not with fear but with knowing. Give not with pressure but with joy. And receive not with guilt but with grace. You are ready not because of what you have done, but because of who you are chosen. Held, guided, empowered, walk in this truth now, and let every step remind you. Abundance is not a destination. It is your nature returned to alignment. You are the vessel. Spirit is the source. And nothing is missing. Nothing is withheld. Everything you need is already on its way.
The spoken word has power. The decree of the heart moves the unseen forces of the universe into form. To command is not arrogance, but alignment. It is to know that the infinite waits upon your word, for the universe is responsive to faith, quick to obey the consciousness that refuses doubt. Now is the appointed hour to speak into life. 200 Zalozand is mine before September, not in struggle, not in fear, but in certainty. For the law of supply is precise, unfailing, and ever ready to meet the demand of the fearless soul. The world has taught many to bow before appearances, to see lack and call it truth. Yet appearances are but shadows. The unseen reality is abundance, unmeasured and inexhaustible. Whoever stands firm upon the spoken word, free of fear, becomes a magnetic center for wealth, opportunity, and provision. The 200 Zalozar is not distant, nor hidden, nor delayed. It is already here in the invisible, awaiting your recognition. The countdown has begun, not as a warning, but as a drumbeat of destiny. Each day draws the visible manifestation closer as you remain steadfast in command. Say within yourself, I am the heir of abundance. The channels of supply are open wide. Nothing can prevent what belongs to me from rushing into form. Before September, though 200 Zalozan appears by divine right in perfect ways, there is no need to scheme or strain, for the universe is the great orchestrator. It arranges the details, opens doors, lifts veils, and sets the stage. Your part is to hold the vision, speak the decree, and walk in unwavering expectation. The obedient universe cannot deny the fearless word. Every law is already at work, the law of vibration, the law of attraction, the law of substitution. Fear is cast out, faith reigns, and provision hastens. Where others see impossibility, the obedient universe shows miracles. When you count the days, let it not be with anxiety but with joy, as though awaiting a long-expected guest who never fails to arrive. Each sunrise whispers, the supply is nearer. Each sunset assures, it is on the way. Command, and the substance obeys. Declare, and it takes form. The countdown is the song of assurance, the rhythm of manifestation. For to the fearless word, 200 Zalozan is already accomplished, sealed and done. The spoken word commands substance. To speak with conviction is to breathe life into the unseen, to give shape to the invisible supply that surrounds every soul. Words are not idle sounds. They are currents of energy, carrying the force of creation itself. When uttered with faith, they summon circumstances, people, and events to move in harmony with the decree. To speak is to mold reality, and every syllable charged with belief becomes law to the obedient universe. When one declares, I command 200 Zalozan before September, it is not mere wish, not desperate plea, but divine command. It is the sound of authority that echoes beyond time, beyond space, into the invisible realm where all things are already completed. The spoken word travels farther than sight, and returns with evidence of what was affirmed. There is no gap between thought and manifestation, except the bridge of unwavering speech. The tongue is the rudder steering the ship of life, and by words fortunes rise or fall. Substance is responsive, fluid, and alive, waiting only for command. It does not question whether the decree is possible, it only obeys the vibration of certainty. The mistake of many is to speak double words, affirming abundance one moment and confessing lack the next. Such divided speech scatters energy, sending mixed signals, and the substance hesitates, for it mirrors the divided heart. But the unwavering decree, spoken daily, hourly, with steady force, crystallizes into matter as surely as night becomes day. Every great manifestation begins with the utterance of a word. The world itself was called forth by speech, and the same principle holds for the abundance you summon now. To command 200 Zalozar is not arrogance, it is remembrance of divine inheritance. The soul does not beg for bread, it claims its portion. The decree aligns with eternal law. That every need is already supplied, that every desire is already fulfilled, that every command issued in fearless faith is already answered. The spoken word is not sound alone, it is thought clothed in vibration. The tone, the feeling, the certainty behind it, all pour energy into form. A whisper of faith carries more power than a shout of doubt. When you speak 200 Zalozan into existence, it is not the volume of the sound but the depth of the belief that carries weight. The universe bends not to noise, but to resonance. The decree uttered with calm assurance moves faster than frantic words born of fear. To command is to refuse contradiction. Appearances may show lack. Accounts may seem empty, opportunities may look scarce, but the one who speaks abundance refuses to be swayed. The tongue holds steady, repeating the decree until the world reshapes itself to comply. Each spoken word plants a seed in the unseen, and the repetition waters it. In silence the growth is unseen, but in time it bursts forth as visible harvest. The farmer who sows does not doubt the earth, so too must you trust the law that every spoken seed bears fruit. The 200 zalazars is not summoned from nowhere. It is drawn from the infinite storehouse, through channels prepared in ways beyond comprehension. Some channels may already exist, hidden in plain sight, awaiting recognition. Others may appear suddenly, as though out of nowhere, yet perfectly timed. The word spoken with faith activates the law of preparation, setting in motion events that line up in harmony, deals, contracts, gifts, opportunities. And unexpected channels are the obedient messengers of the decree. The spoken word commands substance because it cuts through the fog of appearances. Many remain trapped in the circle of complaining, of describing what is instead of declaring what must be. Their words strengthen the chains they wish to escape. But the one who speaks with vision does not describe the prison, he declares the open door. Words charged with faith do not mirror reality, they reshape it. They are creative instruments, not passive reflections. The decree, I command 200,000 before September, is not a description but a creation, a demand upon substance to form the unseen into the seen. To speak such a decree daily is to stand in the place of mastery. Each utterance chisels away the invisible resistance, carving out the path for manifestation. Even when appearances mock, the tongue must not waver. The declaration must be repeated as law, as fact, until the outer conforms. This is not blind repetition but creative persistence, the steady hammer of faith striking the invisible stone until the form appears. The power lies not in speaking once and forgetting, but in speaking continually, until the vibration saturates the mind, the heart, and the atmosphere. Every spoken word sets in motion unseen forces, angels of provision, laws of attraction, currents of opportunity. These are all stirred when a decree is made with conviction. There is no wasted word in the realm of spirit. Each utterance is recorded, each syllable vibrates, each declaration builds momentum. When aligned with certainty, words carve channels through which the supply rushes. The universe does not resist the command, it yields instantly. The only resistance is the divided mind, the doubting tongue, the fearful whisper that contradicts the decree. Therefore, discipline of speech is the discipline of manifestation. To guard the tongue is to guard the harvest. Every idle complaint delays. Every careless declaration scatters. Yet every fearless word accelerates. When you say, 200,000 is mine before September, and refuse to utter its opposite, the substance aligns swiftly. To slip into doubt is human, but to return swiftly to command is mastery. Each time the decree is spoken, the vibration strengthens, the path clears, the channels open wider. The spoken word commands substance because substance recognizes authority. Authority is not loudness but certainty. The command of a king is obeyed not because of force, but because of position. When you speak as heir of abundance, clothed in divine right. You do not beg the universe, you direct it. You do not hope, you command. The word carries weight because it is aligned with eternal truth. Abundance is the natural order, supply is infinite, and the obedient universe cannot deny the fearless decree. Appearances are shadows. Abundance is reality. To live by appearances is to dwell in illusion, to take the temporary image for eternal truth, to mistake the flickering shadow for the substance that casts it. The senses show limitation, lack, and impossibility, but they are mirrors only of thought already formed. They are the residue of past belief, the echo of what once was, not the living reality of what can be commanded now. To walk by appearances is to be bound by them, yet to recognize them as shadows is to reclaim authority over substance. To see beyond the veil into the infinite storehouse, where abundance reigns without measure. The shadow may declare the account empty, the calendar short, the opportunities scarce, yet shadows have no power of their own. They are cast by the light of belief, by the shapes of thought projected into the visible. To chase shadows is folly, for they shift with the movement of the light. The wise soul turns not to the shadow but to the source, knowing that what appears is but a passing reflection. The invisible reality is abundance, ceaseless and overflowing, And every decree that aligns with this truth dissolves the shadows of lack. Abundance is the eternal fact. It cannot be destroyed, diminished, or delayed. The earth itself testifies of inexhaustible provision. The seeds that multiply, the rivers that flow, the stars without number. Every part of creation reveals the pattern of overflow, yet the mind trained by appearances insists upon limits. To believe appearances is to build walls around oneself, but to believe reality is to open the gates of infinite supply. The declaration, 200,000 before September, is not a denial of appearances, it is the refusal to bow before them. It is the recognition that reality is not dictated by what is seen, but by what is known in truth. Appearances are the garments of yesterday's thought. They may look like mountains, but they are mist. They may look like walls, but they are smoke. Faith speaks through them as though they do not exist, and in the strength of decree they melt away. The one who commands abundance does not argue with appearances, does not wrestle with the shadow. He speaks to the reality behind it, knowing that abundance is substance, and that shadows must obey. The visible must align with the invisible. For the invisible is cause, the visible only effect. The law of abundance is eternal. It waits for recognition, for the bold voice that calls it forth. Those who fixate on shadows say, there is not enough time, not enough opportunity, not enough means. Those who fixate on reality declare, the supply is endless, the channels are many, and the universe is already moving. One lives by fear, the other by command. One repeats the old reflection, the other creates a new form. Appearances are history, reality is now. Appearances are memory, reality is power. Appearances are limitation, reality is freedom. The mind that obeys appearances lives in circles. It sees lack, speaks lack, experiences lack, then calls it truth. Yet it is but the echo of its own words. The mind that obeys reality breaks the circle, declaring abundance despite appearances, speaking overflow where lack seems present. Such a mind stands in truth, and truth reshapes form. The decree is not bound by shadow but by substance, and substance answers swiftly. The 200,000 may seem impossible by appearances, but reality knows no impossibility. The law of supply is already prepared. The channels already open, the abundance already near. To train the eye away from appearances requires discipline. The world constantly parades shadows, declaring shortage, delay, resistance. The senses insist upon their evidence, but faith insists upon reality. Every time appearances rise, the decree must rise higher. Every time the shadow speaks, the word of abundance must answer. The one who holds steady in this way becomes unmoved by illusion, anchored in reality. This anchoring draws the unseen into sight, for reality always seeks expression. And it rushes to fill the command that refuses to waver. Abundance is reality, because it is aligned with the nature of the universe itself. Expansion, growth, multiplication, these are woven into creation. The tree bears fruit beyond its own need, the ocean overflows its shores, the air cannot be contained, the stars cannot be counted. Lack is not truth, it is appearance. The appearance of drought does not erase the hidden well. The appearance of famine does not erase the law of harvest. The appearance of delay does not erase the eternal now. The decree draws from this hidden reality, summoning what appearances deny, but what truth affirms. Appearances may declare that 200,000 is too much, too sudden, too far. They speak the language of impossibility, yet impossibility is the vocabulary of shadows. Reality speaks another tongue, immediate, unlimited, inevitable. To speak in harmony with reality is to command what already exists in the invisible. It is not to create from nothing, but to reveal what is already present. The 200,000 does not need to be made, it needs only to be called forth, and appearances must yield to the stronger law of abundance. The decree does not ask, it announces. It does not beg. It commands. The one who understands appearances as shadows learns not to fear them. A shadow may look like a giant, but touch it and it disappears. A shadow may look like a wall, but step forward and it vanishes. Fear magnifies the shadow, but faith shrinks it to nothing. To focus on shadows is to give them life, to focus on reality is to drain them of power. Every declaration of abundance is a turning away from illusion toward truth. And every repetition weakens the hold of appearances until they dissolve entirely. Abundance is reality, because it is rooted in law. The law of supply does not fluctuate with appearances. Just as gravity does not cease when one doubts it, the law of abundance does not fail when appearances contradict it. It continues, steady and sure, waiting for alignment. Words of faith align with it. Words of fear oppose it, yet the law itself never falters. To say, I command 200,000 before September, is to stand in agreement with the law, to bring thought and speech into harmony with what has always been true. The law obeys alignment, not appearances. Those who master this truth become immune to circumstances. Where others see impossibility, they see opportunity. Where others bow to shadows, they declare reality. This mastery is not arrogance, it is remembrance. It is knowing that appearances are temporary actors upon the stage, but reality is the eternal script. The abundance called forth by decree does not depend on the permission of appearances, it depends on the authority of the word. When the word is spoken with certainty, appearances shift, dissolve, and rearrange themselves to comply. Faith sets the law of supply in motion. Faith is the invisible engine, the spark that ignites the unseen machinery of the universe, the force that commands substance to take form. Without faith, words are hollow, gestures are empty, decrees are unanchored. With faith, every utterance becomes law, every command gains authority, every desire transforms into substance. Faith is not hope, not wavering desire, not a timid wish for what might come to pass. Faith is certainty, assurance, conviction that what is spoken already exists, unseen but inevitable. It is the inner knowing that summons the outer form, the magnetic pull that draws supply from the infinite. The law of supply is precise, impartial, and ever ready. Yet it remains still until faith gives it motion. Just as a seed holds within it the certainty of a tree, but requires water to awaken it, the law of supply holds infinite abundance, but requires faith to stir it into expression. Doubt is the drought that leaves the seed dormant. Fear is the frost that stifles its growth. Faith is the rain, the warmth, the vital condition that awakens the law and compels it to bear fruit. To declare 200,000 before September, without faith is an empty phrase, but with faith it becomes command, and the universe rushes to obey. Faith is the vision of the unseen. It is the ability to look past appearances, to look beyond the shadows of lack, to look into the substance that already contains the 200,000. Faith does not require visible evidence because it already knows reality. Appearances may speak delay, circumstances may echo impossibility, but faith is deaf to such voices. It sees only abundance, hears only supply, knows only fulfillment. Faith does not tremble at calendars or deadlines. Faith does not measure by human limits. Faith rests in the law of supply. Knowing it cannot fail, knowing that once set in motion it must deliver, faith operates as command. When the decree is spoken in faith, it carries authority, it carries vibration, it carries life. Words without faith are empty shells. Words with faith are living seeds, planted in the soil of the universe, destined to grow and manifest. Every repetition of the decree waters the seed. Every refusal to doubt strengthens the roots. Every act of expectation nourishes the growth. Faith does not question whether the law of supply will respond. It knows response is guaranteed. The only question is how swiftly and through what channels. Yet even these matters are trusted to the unseen orchestration of the universe. Faith sets the law of supply in motion, because faith aligns thought, word, and vibration with reality. When the inner state is divided, when the mind says yes but the heart whispers no, the signal is scattered and the law remains dormant. But when thought and word are united in faith, the command is clear, and the law responds with precision. Just as a magnet attracts iron filings without effort, faith attracts provision without strain. The stronger the magnet, the wider the pull, the stronger the faith, the greater the flow of supply. Faith does not chase, it draws. Faith does not beg, it compels. Faith does not hope, it knows the law of supply has no resistance. It is abundance itself, eager to flow, eager to express, eager to multiply. What slows it is not the universe but the absence of faith. The moment faith is set in motion, channels open, opportunities appear, provision unfolds. Sometimes in expected ways, sometimes in astonishing ways, but always in perfect timing. Faith does not demand to see the method, it simply calls forth the result. Faith knows the law is unfailing, so it releases control of the process while remaining anchored in the certainty of outcome. The decree, 200,000 before September, spoken in unwavering faith, carries the vibration that compels substance to crystallize. Regardless of appearances, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It is substance itself, not intangible mist. It is the material of creation, the bridge between thought and form. When faith is present, the unseen becomes inevitable, and the law of supply begins to move. Faith is not blind. It is the clearest vision. It does not ignore appearances, it sees through them. It does not deny shadows, it knows they have no power. Faith sees abundance where the eye sees lack, and by seeing, it calls it forth. The world bends to this vision, for the law of supply cannot resist the pull of faith. To live in faith is to live in motion, to set the law into constant operation. Every act, every thought, every word becomes charged with creative power. The atmosphere around the faithful one vibrates with expectancy, drawing provision like a magnet. Doors open, people appear, opportunities align. Ideas spark, resources flow. The faith-filled soul does not sit in idleness but walks in expectation, ready to receive from any direction. Faith sharpens intuition, heightens awareness, and guides steps toward open channels. It is not passive, it is dynamic. It is not weak, it is unshakable. It does not wait in despair, it waits in certainty. Knowing the law of supply is already in motion, faith is tested not in moments of ease, but in moments of contradiction. When appearances scream lack, when circumstances appear immovable, faith must rise higher. To declare abundance in the face of emptiness is the essence of faith. To hold the decree when the evidence is absent is the mastery of faith. Every shadow that rises is but an invitation to deepen conviction. Every delay is but a mirror asking if the decree still stands. The faithful one answers not with doubt, but with repetition, declaring again and again, 200,000 before September, until the shadow fades and the supply appears. The law of supply cannot resist this force. Faith draws upon the infinite, not the limited. Faith taps into the eternal, not the temporary. Faith summons provision from channels unseen, methods unimagined, resources uncounted. Faith is the key that turns the lock, the spark that ignites the fire, the command that sets the law in motion. The decree without faith is empty sound, but the decree with faith is unstoppable command. Once the law is set in motion, it does not return void. It carries the decree into manifestation, shaping events, bending circumstances, rearranging reality to comply with the fearless word. The universe obeys the fearless decree. The universe does not respond to hesitation, to wavering, to timid words spoken with doubt. It responds to the voice of command, the voice that carries certainty, the voice that stands unmoved before appearances. A decree uttered in fear is but noise, but a decree uttered in fearlessness is law, and the law is swiftly obeyed. The universe is not selective in its obedience. It bends to the vibration of authority. When the word is spoken with power, the substance of life rushes into shape. Compelled by the certainty behind the utterance, fearless decree is not arrogance. It is alignment with truth. To speak without trembling is to know that the law of abundance is eternal, unfailing, unbreakable. It is to recognize that the universe is not capricious, not withholding, not distant. It is immediate, obedient, and ready to serve the fearless command. When the soul declares, 200,000 before September, without wavering, without contradiction, the universe moves as servant to the master word. All channels, all resources, all opportunities are summoned into alignment with the decree. Fearless command leaves no room for delay, no room for denial, no room for defeat. Fearless decree is born of faith. It is the recognition that appearances hold no authority, that shadows have no power, that obstacles are but illusions. The fearless soul speaks not according to what the eye sees, but according to what the spirit knows. It does not tremble at the sight of lack. It does not falter before the whisper of impossibility. It does not surrender to the mocking of time. The fearless decree cuts through the illusion with the sword of certainty, declaring abundance where none is visible, and the universe must obey. The word becomes flesh, the decree becomes form, the abundance becomes reality, the universe is responsive, pliable, obedient. It waits only for command, yet most give it no command, only confusion. They declare abundance one moment, lack the next. They speak faith one day, fear the next. Their words cancel each other, their vibration scatters, and the universe mirrors their uncertainty. But the one who speaks fearlessly, steadily, continually, becomes the center of power. Every decree is law, every word is seed, every utterance is command. The universe, hearing no contradiction, moves swiftly to fulfill. It does not hesitate, for hesitation has no place before fearless authority. Fearless decree is simple. It does not argue. It does not explain. It does not justify. It declares. It speaks as fact, not hope. It announces as truth, not possibility. 200,000 before September is not a wish, it is a command. The universe hears it as order, and all laws are set in motion to deliver. Just as soldiers obey the voice of their commander without question, so the substance of life obeys the fearless decree. There is no debate, no resistance, no delay. The decree is law, and the law is carried out. The fearless decree is steady. It does not change with appearances. It does not bend with circumstances. It does not crumble under pressure. It holds the same tone in the morning and at night, on days of light and on days of shadow. Its power lies not in loudness but in constancy. Spoken once, it carries vibration. Spoken continually, it becomes irresistible. Each repetition strengthens its authority, each utterance deepens its roots, each declaration builds momentum. The universe, compelled by the rhythm of repetition, yields without resistance. The fearless decree chisels reality until it conforms, carving out the abundance spoken into form. Fearless decree commands not only substance but also self. The act of speaking with certainty reshapes the mind, silences doubt, aligns the heart. Every fearless word spoken builds inner authority, convincing the soul of its own power. The more the decree is uttered, the more the inner self believes, and belief is the force that ignites the law. The decree not only directs the universe outwardly, it transforms the individual inwardly, making him a vessel of certainty, a magnet of supply, a conductor of abundance. The fearless decree is both command to the universe and training to the self, bringing both into perfect harmony. The universe obeys because the universe is law. Law has no personality, no opinion, no choice but obedience. Just as the law of gravity does not ask permission, the law of supply does not question the decree. It only responds to vibration, to certainty, to fearlessness. The decree is the trigger, the switch, the ignition. Once spoken with fearlessness, it sets in motion processes unseen, currents invisible, forces beyond imagination. The law begins to rearrange circumstances, open channels, summon opportunities. Coincidences multiply, doors appear, resources flow. To the outside eye, it may seem chance, but in truth, it is obedience to the fearless decree. Fearless decree must be untainted. To speak in one breath abundance, and in the next scarcity, is to cancel the command. The universe does not discriminate between words of faith and words of fear. It obeys both. This is why the fearless soul guards the tongue, refusing to utter contradiction, refusing to confess lack, refusing to bow to appearances. Every word is watched, every utterance weighed, every decree aligned. The universe, hearing only certainty, moves only in certainty. The decree 200,000 before September becomes carved in the fabric of reality, and nothing can erase it but contradiction. The fearless soul allows no contradiction. Fearless decree is not forceful in struggle, but forceful in peace. It does not shout to convince itself. It whispers with assurance. It does not fight against appearances, it ignores them. It does not wrestle with the universe, it commands it. Fearlessness is calm, certain, immovable. It is the stillness of authority, the quiet power that knows it cannot be denied. The decree need not be dramatic, for its power is not in theatrics but in vibration. The universe does not obey noise, it obeys certainty. A single word spoken in fearless faith carries more power than endless cries of fear. Fearless decree creates atmosphere. The words spoken charge the environment, saturating the air with expectancy, shifting the vibration of every room, attracting provision from all directions. Those who come near feel the force, though they may not understand it. Circumstances bend to the field created by the decree. People, ideas, and opportunities are drawn into orbit, compelled by the magnetic pull of certainty. The universe arranges itself around the decree, making straight the path, clearing the obstacles, opening the channels. The decree does not wait for evidence, it creates evidence. It does not search for confirmation, it becomes confirmation. It does not beg for signs. It is the sign. The universe obeys the fearless decree because fearless decree is truth. Truth does not bend, truth does not falter, truth does not fail. The decree spoken in fearlessness is aligned with truth itself, and truth has authority over shadow. The decree is the voice of truth made audible, the sound of abundance declaring itself through the tongue of the fearless. The universe recognizes this sound and answers immediately. For it is the sound of alignment, the sound of law, the sound of creation itself. The countdown is assurance, not delay. Time is not an enemy. It is a servant, a stage upon which the decree unfolds. The mind that fears countdown sees each day as a thief stealing possibility, but the mind of faith sees each day as a herald announcing the nearness of supply. The countdown is not a clock of despair, but a rhythm of certainty, a procession carrying the decree into manifestation. Each sunrise is a messenger whispering, "It is closer." Each sunset is a sign declaring, "It is on the way." To count days with dread is to deny the law, but to count them with joy is to affirm the law at work. Delay is illusion. Reality is instant, but appearances unfold in rhythm. The law of supply is already in motion the moment the decree is spoken, and the countdown is but the unfolding of what has already been accomplished in the unseen. The shadow of time may try to frighten the timid, but the fearless decree stands unmoved. The countdown is evidence that the process is alive, that the harvest is ripening, that the appointed hour is certain. Just as the farmer does not despair when days pass before the sprout appears, the soul that decrees 200,000 before September knows that every tick of the clock is drawing the unseen into visibility. The countdown sharpens faith. Each day without visible evidence tests the decree, and each day that faith stands unbroken strengthens its authority. The countdown is the fire that proves conviction, the pressure that hardens certainty, the stage upon which fearless words demonstrate their power. Without countdown there is no demonstration, for manifestation would be immediate. With countdown, the decree is proved true, unshaken by appearances, untouched by delay. Each number falling on the calendar is not loss but proof, not absence but assurance, not emptiness but fulfillment in preparation. The law of supply does not forget, it does not fail, it does not falter. The countdown is simply the rhythm of its unfolding. To look at countdown with fear is to misunderstand its nature. Fear says, "Time is running out." Faith says, "Time is carrying it to me." Fear says, "It is too late." Faith says, "It is right on schedule." Fear trembles as the days fall away, but faith rejoices, for every day that passes brings the decree closer. The countdown is not a narrowing gate but an opening door. Each moment that slips away is not opportunity lost, but opportunity fulfilled. The decree has already been answered, and the countdown is the journey from invisible to visible, from unseen to seen. From declared to manifested, the countdown disciplines the tongue. When appearances seem unchanged as days pass, the temptation is to speak contradiction, to doubt, to confess lack. But the faithful soul refuses. The countdown becomes a test of speech, and the decree must be spoken again and again, with the same certainty as the first time. 200,000 before September must be uttered with unshaken tone, even when the shadow of time presses heavily. Each repetition during the countdown is an act of mastery, chiseling away fear, silencing doubt, engraving the decree deeper into reality. The countdown is not delay, it is practice, it is preparation. It is assurance taking shape through steady words. The universe does not move by human impatience, it moves by law. Law unfolds in perfect rhythm, and countdown is its rhythm revealed. The harvest never arrives before its season, yet it never fails to arrive in season. The decree is the seed. Faith is the water, and countdown is the season. To mistake season for delay is to miss the truth. The season is assurance that the process is alive, that the invisible is moving into form, that the decree is already at work. Every tick of the clock is a step of obedience. Every number fallen is proof of progress. Every passing day is evidence of fulfillment drawing nearer. The countdown transforms fear into certainty when understood. The human mind often trembles at deadlines, fearing what will not be accomplished. Yet the fearless soul knows the deadline is not a wall but a door. September is not an ending but an arrival, not a cutoff but a fulfillment. To declare 200,000 before September is to align with the rhythm of the universe, to set a clear command, to direct substance into form. The countdown is simply the unfolding of that command. Each day narrowing toward September is the echo of the decree growing louder. The vibration intensifying, the law accelerating, the countdown is momentum. Each day passed does not diminish power, it increases it. Just as a river gathers speed as it flows toward the sea, the decree gathers force as it flows toward manifestation. The closer September draws, the stronger the vibration, the greater the expectancy, the more channels open, the more substance obeys. To those without faith, the countdown feels like pressure. To those with fearless decree, the countdown feels like certainty. The momentum cannot be stopped. For once the decree is spoken in authority, the universe is bound to obey. And the countdown is the visible sign of its obedience. The countdown teaches detachment. It reveals whether the decree is held with certainty or clutched with desperation. The fearful soul counts with anxiety, watching each day vanish, grasping at appearances, demanding evidence. The faithful soul counts with calm, knowing the law is already at work, knowing that appearances are shadows, knowing that the decree is law. Detachment is not indifference, it is mastery. It is the refusal to beg, the refusal to grasp, the refusal to doubt. The countdown becomes assurance when detachment is present, for the soul knows the outcome is already accomplished, and time is simply the path of its unfolding. The countdown is alignment. Each day gives the soul opportunity to align thought, word, and feeling with the decree. Each day is rehearsal for reception, training for abundance, preparation for overflow. The decree is not only about 200,000 arriving, it is about the soul becoming one who receives 200,000 with ease, who lives in abundance without fear, who commands supply without trembling. The countdown shapes the vessel, expanding capacity, strengthening faith, preparing the channel. By the time September arrives, the soul is ready not only to receive the 200,000, but to hold it, multiply it, and command greater abundance. Still, the countdown is divine order. It ensures that provision arrives not in chaos but in perfection, not in disorder but in harmony, not in fragments but in fullness. If it appeared before preparation, it might be mishandled. If it appeared too late, it would not serve its purpose. The countdown guarantees perfect timing, perfect form, perfect expression. To fear it is folly, to embrace it is wisdom. Each day is positioned, each hour arranged, each moment guided by the unseen intelligence of the law. The countdown is proof of orchestration, evidence that the universe is not idle but working with precision. There is a divine law that governs all abundance, and this law is as precise as the rising of the sun. Money is not elusive, nor is it cruel. It is an obedient servant, awaiting the command of the soul that knows its own authority. The world teaches that supply is limited, that effort must be strained, and that only through struggle can one attain prosperity. But in truth, there exists one command, one simple decree of the Spirit, that can turn the tide of fortune and bring into manifestation a flood of wealth within the span of mere hours. We live not in a universe of lack, but in a universe of overflowing substance. Every dollar, every coin, every stream of prosperity is already prepared. already moving toward those who dare to speak with conviction. Just as the seed contains within itself the mighty tree, so does a single word contain within itself the power to draw riches from the unseen to the seen. The spoken word, clothed in unwavering faith, is the bridge from invisible supply to tangible manifestation. When a soul awakens to its authority, it ceases to beg, it ceases to wait, it ceases to question, it commands. And in commanding, it calls forth the hidden treasures of the universe. The mind that knows its dominion over circumstance no longer trembles before bills, debts, or obligations. Instead, it speaks the word, and money answers. It decrees the law, and substance rushes to obey. This is not imagination, nor wishful thinking. It is law immutable, eternal, and immediate when touched by the certainty of faith. One command, spoken with the fire of belief, has the power to unlock the vaults of heaven and pour forth streams of prosperity that seem miraculous to the doubter, but natural to the knower. Time, as we understand it, bends before the authority of spirit. 12 hours is but a moment in eternity, yet it is enough for the unseen to crystallize into form. In those hours, opportunities appear, debts dissolve, channels open, and provision arrives. Money does not respond to fear, nor to desperation. It is deaf to anxiety, but it is quick, sharp, and eager to obey the words spoken in alignment with divine order. The individual who speaks this command does not plead or hope. They declare. And in declaring, they set the law into motion. They become a magnetized center through which abundance flows swiftly, effortlessly, and with precision. It is not toil that brings sudden wealth, but alignment. It is not struggle that brings huge money in a matter of hours, but certainty. The one who knows this command stands calm, serene, and confident. For they understand that the universe rushes to fulfill their decree the moment it is released. This is the secret of sudden supplies. The recognition that you are the voice through which infinite substance takes direction. With a single command, wealth hastens its steps, eager to clothe itself in form at your bidding. The spoken word carries within it a force that most people never fully recognize. Every word uttered is not a casual vibration in the air. It is a command sent into the invisible substance of life, shaping circumstances and drawing into form the things it names. Words are clothed with energy, and energy is never lost. Once spoken, a word sets into motion currents of power that begin at once to arrange conditions, people, and opportunities in harmony with its meaning. To speak is to decree, and to decree is to rule over the substance that makes up the seen and the unseen. The ancient wisdom has long declared that in the beginning was the Word, and from the Word all things were made. This is not a poetic statement. It is a literal key to the mystery of manifestation. Thought alone is powerful, yet thought unspoken remains like a seed unplanted. It contains the potential of the oak, but until it is placed in the soil, it cannot sprout. Words are the planting of thought into the soil of universal substance. The moment you speak, you set the invisible into action. Silent belief has strength, but spoken belief becomes law. Every affirmation, every declaration, whether conscious or unconscious, is a seed sown into the field of life. Many wonder why they see struggle, why they encounter lack, why disappointment circles them again and again. They forget that their own words have been commanding those very conditions. The tongue is a creative instrument. To speak of poverty, fear, or limitation is to invite it closer. To declare wealth, joy, and certainty is to summon them swiftly. There is no neutrality in speech, for every word tilts the balance either toward abundance or toward lack. The individual who understands the power of the spoken word becomes a careful guardian of their speech. They cease to speak idle words, words of complaint, words of fear, words of doubt. Instead, they measure their speech with precision, knowing that each utterance is a brushstroke on the canvas of their reality. They understand that speech is not only expression but creation. They speak, and in speaking they form. They command, and in commanding they establish. Words carry vibration, and vibration draws to itself like vibration. When the word is spoken with conviction, it becomes magnetic. A word charged with faith carries far more weight than 1,000 words spoken carelessly. It is not the length of speech, but the intensity of belief that clothes a word with power. A short command, spoken with absolute certainty, can pierce the invisible and bring forth results in astonishing speed. Faith acts as the fire, and the word is the spark carried on that flame. Together they ignite the substance of life into form. Money itself is sensitive to the word, though many treat it as an elusive object. Money is in truth a vibration, a current of energy that responds swiftly to the commands of speech. When you declare that money flows freely, doors of opportunity open, channels are cleared, and the very atmosphere around you is charged with provision. When you complain that money is scarce, you are declaring scarcity, and the law obeys by closing doors, blocking channels, and arranging lack. Money follows words as faithfully as a shadow follows form. The one who learns to direct words with intention understands that speech is never casual. Words spoken lightly still bear fruit, though often the fruit is bitter. To say, "I cannot afford, I never have enough, money is hard to come by," is to set decrees that the universe must honor. Words are commands. They do not question the speaker's awareness. They simply bring forth that which is spoken, with impartial obedience. The universe is literal. It does not interpret jokes, sarcasm, or exaggeration. It only hears and it only creates. To harness this power, one must speak with the authority of one who knows. Authority does not plead, nor does it ask timidly. It declares. A declaration leaves no room for wavering. It is firm, steady, absolute. When a word is spoken with such force, the invisible immediately sets to work. Conditions shift, unseen help arrives, channels open, and substance hastens into form. Those who understand this law do not waste time wondering how it will happen. They speak, and they trust the law to arrange the details. The tongue has been called a sword, and rightly so, for it cuts through appearances. Appearances may show lack, but a word can slice through that illusion and establish supply. Appearances may show sickness, but a word can declare wholeness and dissolve the illusion. Appearances may whisper failure, but a word can roar success and scatter defeat. The sword of the word is not wielded in violence but in calm authority. It is not the shout that carries power, but the certainty behind the utterance. A quiet word spoken in faith can overturn the loudest fear. The atmosphere around each individual is filled with words they have spoken in the past. These words hang like seeds waiting to sprout, and many are living today in the harvest of yesterday's speech. If one desires a different harvest, they must sow different words. To speak abundance today is to plant abundance tomorrow. To declare prosperity now is to arrange for prosperity in the hours ahead. Words set cycles into motion, and cycles unfailingly return their fruit. When the spoken word is combined with imagination and faith, its power becomes multiplied. To see inwardly while declaring outwardly is to double the decree. The word sends the command, the image gives it form, and faith gives it substance. Together they weave reality as swiftly as lightning splits the sky. The individual who uses all three with precision becomes a master of manifestation. And money, health, success, and joy all respond to their decree with remarkable speed. The law of the spoken word is not bound by time. It does not recognize hours, days, or weeks. It only responds to the command. A word spoken in true faith can compress time, bringing into hours what others struggle for in years. This is why sudden wealth, sudden opportunity, sudden change are not miracles. They are simply the swift obedience of substance to the power of a word spoken with authority. Faith is the activator of supply, because without faith the spoken word is hollow, empty, and powerless. Faith is the invisible current that electrifies the command and compels the universe to obey. It is not mere hope, not wishful thinking, not a timid desire that trembles at appearances. Faith is a fierce knowing, a quiet certainty that what is spoken must be established because the law cannot fail. Faith is the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the hidden and the revealed, the eternal and the temporal. When faith is present, time shortens, channels widen, and the impossible dissolves before the authority of spirit. There are those who speak words yet see no result. Not because the law has failed, but because the words were spoken without the breath of faith. Words without faith are like arrows without a bow. They fall before reaching their mark. Faith is the force that sends them flying, piercing through every obstacle and striking the center of manifestation. The universe is impartial, but it is not moved by doubt. It does not respond to hesitation, it does not bend to uncertainty. Only faith, unshaken and resolute, activates the law so that supply appears where none seemed possible. Faith is the assurance that substance is ever present, regardless of outer appearances. To the eye there may be emptiness, but to faith there is only fullness awaiting recognition. To the ear, there may be silence, but to faith there is the music of supply drawing near. Faith looks beyond the visible and sees with the vision of spirit. It calls that which is not as though it already is, and because it calls with certainty, it appears. When one declares wealth with wavering, they repel it. When one declares wealth with faith, they magnetize it. Faith is the magnet, drawing to itself the riches that already exist in the invisible storehouse of the universe. Faith does not consult with reason, for reason is bound to the visible. Reason calculates, measures, and limits. Faith transcends limitation, knowing that supply is infinite and unbound. Reason asks, how can this be done in 12 hours? Faith replies, it is already done. Reason counts the coins in the purse. But faith declares that substance cannot be counted, for it is endless and ever replenishing. The one who leans on reason remains in the cycle of lack, but the one who clings to faith walks into sudden abundance. Faith does not strain, for strain is a sign of fear. Faith is effortless, calm, serene. It rests in the certainty that what is declared must come, for the law cannot betray itself. Faith is not anxious, for anxiety is born of mistrust. Faith is not impatient, for impatience is rooted in doubt. Faith is a steady flame that burns without flicker, illuminating the path even when appearances show darkness. This steady flame is what turns words into living power. Without it, words vanish into emptiness. With it, words shape reality with precision and speed. When faith is joined to the spoken word, supply answers instantly. Faith is like the key that unlocks the vault. The vault is always there, filled with treasure, but until the key is used it remains closed. Words are the knocking, but faith is the hand that opens the door. Many have spoken wealth and seen nothing, for they knocked without the hand of faith to open. But when faith is present, the vault swings wide, and riches pour forth in ways that astound the reasoning mind. Faith must be pure, untainted by contradiction. To declare wealth with faith in one moment and speak doubt in the next is to scatter the harvest. A divided word cannot stand. The one who commands must remain steadfast, guarding the tongue against contradiction. Faith does not waver between two opinions. Faith declares once, and then stands unmoved, unshaken, unbothered by delay or by appearances. It does not chase results, it knows results must chase it. This calm assurance is the mark of true faith, and it is this calm assurance that activates supply with speed. The measure of faith is not in volume or emotion, but in certainty. A whisper spoken in faith carries more weight than a shout spoken in fear. Faith is not loud, it is solid. It does not need to convince itself, for it already knows. Faith is like a seed that rests in the ground without struggle, knowing it must grow. It does not push or strain, it simply knows that the law of life must fulfill itself. This knowing is what moves substance into form. Faith is not blind, it is vision beyond sight. It does not ignore appearances but looks through them. It sees lack and declares supply, not because it refuses to see, but because it sees deeper. It sees the invisible abundance behind the visible void. Faith is the eyes of spirit, and with those eyes, one perceives riches where others see only poverty. With those eyes, one speaks with authority, commanding supply to appear, and it comes because it was always there, waiting for recognition. Faith is contagious. When one stands in true faith, the atmosphere shifts, others sense it, and conditions align. Opportunities are drawn to the individual whose faith is alive, for faith emits a vibration that substance cannot resist. It is as though the whole universe bends toward the one who believes. People appear with the right resources, Ideas spring forth in perfect timing, doors open that were thought closed. These are not accidents. They are the visible response to invisible faith. Faith is not something to be acquired from outside, it is the natural inheritance of the soul. It is the recognition of divine order, the remembrance that the universe is governed by law, and that law responds to the command of the word clothed in belief. Every individual carries this power within, yet most bury it beneath fear, doubt, and reasoning. To awaken faith is simply to uncover what has always been present, the certainty that life is abundant, and that supply answers swiftly to the one who knows it must. Money is an obedient servant, never a master, and it waits for direction from the one who knows their authority. Too many place money on a throne, bowing before it, chasing after it, fearing its absence, clinging desperately to its presence. In truth, money is not power in itself, it is only substance in motion, energy clothed in form. Shaped and commanded by the words and beliefs of the individual, it does not lead, it follows. It does not command, it obeys. It is never the ruler but always the servant, eager to take shape in whatever pattern the consciousness provides. When a person believes money to be scarce, money obeys and withdraws. When a person believes money to be abundant, money obeys and multiplies. When a person fears that money will vanish, money responds by disappearing. When a person declares that money flows freely, money hastens to prove the truth of the decree. It has no will of its own, no purpose apart from the one assigned to it. Like a faithful servant, it takes the command and carries it out without hesitation. The tragedy of many lives is that they have handed the reins of power to money, believing it to control their destiny. They see it as a master, harsh and unpredictable, rewarding some and punishing others. This illusion binds them to lack, because what one fears becomes a master. The individual who fears money's absence gives money authority over their peace, their joy, their choices. Yet the moment one recognizes that money is only an obedient servant, the chains fall. One realizes that they have always been the master, always the one issuing commands, even if unconsciously. Words and thoughts are the instructions given to this servant. To speak of bills, debts, and difficulty is to hand money in order to restrict itself. To speak of wealth, generosity, and plenty is to instruct money to increase its flow. The servant has no choice but to follow. It does not interpret, it does not argue, it does not resist. It simply acts, reflecting precisely what is spoken and believed. Money is impartial. It does not decide who deserves it, nor does it withhold itself based on character. It moves wherever it is commanded, as fire burns for both the wise and the unwise, as rain falls on both the righteous and the unrighteous. This impartiality is law. Those who understand it do not beg for money to appear, they command it, for they know it cannot deny the voice of authority. Those who treat money as master beg, fear, and wait in endless frustration, not realizing they are speaking commands that keep their servant bound. The servant nature of money is revealed in how quickly it responds to clarity. When one makes a firm, faith-filled declaration about its presence, channels open seemingly out of nowhere. The supply may appear through expected means or through sudden opportunities, but it appears nonetheless, because the servant has heard and obeyed. When one hesitates, contradicts, or speaks doubt, money is confused, uncertain which order to follow, and the flow stalls. Clear commands produce clear results, wavering commands produce confusion. To treat money as servant is to treat it with respect but never with worship. The master does not abuse the servant, nor do they diminish it. But they never bow to it either. They use it wisely, direct it with purpose, and let it serve their higher vision. Money flows in greatest abundance to those who know it is simply a tool, a helper, a channel of expression for the greater substance of life. Those who idolize it repel it, for money will not remain where it is worshipped as master. It comes swiftly, willingly, and obediently to the one who knows their dominion. The moment a person begins to command money instead of fearing it, their life changes. Doors that seemed shut suddenly open, debts that seemed impossible dissolve, opportunities that seemed far away arrive with ease. The servant has only been waiting for clear instructions. It was never absent, never unwilling. It was merely reflecting the orders it had been given through words of fear and doubt. The instant those words are replaced with declarations of abundance, money changes its direction. Money is not attracted to strain or desperation. A servant does not respond to panic, it responds to calm direction. The frantic one pushes money away with their scattered energy, while the calm one draws it near with steady command. To stand in serenity while issuing instructions is to show mastery, and the servant responds to mastery with eagerness. Money flows where it is directed by authority, not where it is chased in fear. Understanding money as servant removes guilt from desiring it. One does not feel guilty for using a tool, nor for instructing a helper to fulfill a task. Money is no different. It exists to serve, to flow, to enable expression. To reject it is to reject the service it can provide. To embrace it as servant is to allow it to take its rightful place as obedient supply. In this recognition, money begins to move freely, without resistance, for it is no longer burdened with false power. The laws of life demand that money serve the one who commands with faith. It cannot resist, for it is bound to obey. The servant does not ask when or how, it simply acts. If commanded to appear within hours, it hastens. If commanded to multiply, it expands. If commanded to flow endlessly, it opens streams that never run dry. The authority lies not in the servant, but in the one issuing the command. To understand this is to stand in dominion over circumstances that once seemed overwhelming. Money reflects the consciousness of its master. In the hands of one who knows abundance, it multiplies. In the hands of one who fears lack, it diminishes. In the hands of one who loves wisely, it blesses. In the hands of one who clings desperately, it slips away. Always it obeys, never it resists. It has no choice. For it is not alive in itself, but animated only by the power of the spoken word and the belief behind it. The servant nature of money means it is never the goal but the vehicle. It is never the source but the channel. It is never the master but the obedient assistant. When this truth is fully accepted, one no longer wastes time fearing its loss or straining for its gain. They stand in authority, they issue commands, and they watch the servant carry them out with precision. This is the law of supply, unchanging, unfailing, and immediate when understood. Command over circumstance is the recognition that life itself is not meant to dictate terms to you, but to respond to the authority of your word. Circumstances are appearances, shifting shadows, temporary forms that mirror the inner state of belief. They are not fixed, they are not final. They are not masters. They are clay in the hands of consciousness, ready to be reshaped at the moment a firm command is given. The individual who understands this truth no longer trembles at outer conditions, for they know those conditions are only the outpicturing of yesterday's commands. And today's word has the power to sweep them away and create a new order. The mistake many make is bowing to circumstances as though they hold dominion. They look at empty purses, at unpaid bills, at doors closed to opportunity, and they surrender, believing that what is seen is final. But circumstances are nothing more than obedient reflections of thought and speech. To bow before them is to hand away authority, to allow the shadow to control the substance. When one rises in the awareness of their dominion, they cease to ask permission of circumstances. They issue commands, and circumstances rearrange themselves to obey. The spoken word, clothed with faith, is law over condition. Appearances may scream lack, yet one command of abundance spoken with certainty forces the law to act. Appearances may whisper defeat, yet one command of victory compels circumstances to align. It is not the outer that dictates the inner, it is the inner word that governs the outer. Those who understand this secret walk in calm assurance, for they know they need not wrestle with appearances. They simply speak, and appearances bend. Circumstances are malleable. They are like water taking the shape of whatever vessel consciousness provides. If the vessel is one of fear, circumstances take the form of obstacles, debts, and delay. If the vessel is one of faith, circumstances take the form of opportunity, provision, and speed. The law is impartial, reflecting whatever command it receives, never questioning, never resisting. This is why command must be firm and unwavering. To issue a weak command is to send a servant without direction. To issue a strong command is to send it forth with precision, and the universe hastens to obey. Command is not loudness or force of personality. It is not the noise of desperation. True command is quiet authority, calm certainty, the still voice that knows it cannot be denied. To speak in fear is to plead, but to speak in authority is to declare. Declarations are the language of command, and when spoken in faith they carry the weight of law. The individual who declares does not wait to see if it will be obeyed. They know it already is. They act as master, and the law of life rushes to fulfill their decree. Every circumstance carries within it the seed of transformation, waiting for command. The empty purse waits for the command of fullness. The closed door waits for the command of opening. The stagnant situation waits for the command of movement. Nothing remains fixed unless the master of the word leaves it unchallenged. To accept conditions as they are is to issue a silent command that they remain. To speak a new condition is to call forth the hidden abundance already present, waiting to take form at the sound of the word. Circumstances test not to break, but to reveal the level of authority exercised. Those who falter at appearances show that they have placed faith in the shadow rather than the substance. Those who stand firm and speak the word in the face of contradiction reveal mastery. The more impossible the circumstance seems, the more glorious the demonstration of command when it yields. Circumstances exist to be commanded, and the one who knows this never fears delay, obstacle, or lack. They see each condition as pliable material, ready to be reshaped by their decree. Command over circumstance is not an act of aggression but of alignment. The command does not come from human will alone, but from union with divine law. When the individual speaks in alignment with truth, their word carries infinite backing. They are not forcing life to obey. They are declaring what life already is in its essence. Supply is already present, health is already complete, success is already established. The command simply clears away the illusion and allows the reality to appear. The outer world mirrors the inner command with absolute faithfulness. If chaos is within, chaos appears without. If order is within, order manifests without. If wealth is affirmed within, wealth takes form without. The law is mechanical in its accuracy, never failing, never making exception. To change circumstances, one need only change the command. The moment a new decree is spoken with faith, the invisible begins to rearrange, and the visible must follow. It cannot resist, for it has no power of its own apart from the consciousness directing it. Those who practice command find that circumstances shift with astonishing speed. What seemed solid and immovable gives way overnight. What seemed delayed suddenly accelerates. What seemed blocked opens in unexpected ways. The universe is plastic to the word of authority, and it responds with swiftness to the voice that knows it is master. The world may call these changes miracles, but in truth they are the natural obedience of substance to command. Command over circumstance liberates the individual from fear. They no longer tremble at bills, obstacles, or setbacks. They no longer ask what will happen if conditions worsen. They no longer waste energy trying to control every detail in the outer. They rest in the certainty that command governs all. They issue the word, and they know the word is law. They do not need to chase after circumstances, for circumstances are already chasing to fulfill their decree. The power to command is not reserved for a few, it is the natural authority of every soul. Yet most live as though powerless, speaking carelessly, pleading rather than declaring, yielding to appearances rather than commanding them. The moment they recognize their dominion, their words gain weight, and circumstances yield like clay in the potter's hand. The individual who commands does not ask whether life will provide, they know it must. They do not hope for change, they declare it. They do not wait for permission, they exercise authority. Command is the true language of mastery. It is not arrogant, it is not forceful. It is not born of pride. It is born of certainty in the law of life, certainty that substance obeys the spoken word, certainty that appearances are only shadows. To command over circumstance is to step into one's rightful place as master of the visible through union with the invisible. It is to take hold of the authority always present but seldom used. Alignment, not struggle, is the secret of manifestation. For life does not yield its treasures to force or frantic effort, but to harmony with divine law. The universe is not moved by exhaustion, nor by sweat, nor by strain. It is moved by the clear, calm words spoken in alignment with truth. Struggle is the language of fear, alignment is the language of mastery. When one struggles, they confess through action that supply is distant, difficult, or unwilling. When one aligns, they recognize that supply is already present, already flowing, already waiting for recognition. Struggle pushes abundance away, alignment draws it near. The idea that money or success must be wrung from the universe through toil is an illusion born of ignorance. Substance does not respond to pressure, it responds to clarity. The farmer does not strain to force a seed to grow, he aligns with the law of growth by placing the seed in the soil, watering it, and trusting the process. So too does the individual align with the law of supply. They speak the word, they stand in faith, and they allow the law to unfold. To strain is to disturb the soil, to uproot the seed, to block the natural process. To align is to rest in the certainty that the law cannot fail. Alignment begins with the recognition that there is no separation between the individual and supply. Struggle is born of the belief that supply is far away, withheld, or difficult to reach. Alignment knows that supply is immediate, infinite, and inseparable from the self. To say, I must fight for money, is to declare distance and difficulty. To say, I am one with endless supply, is to declare alignment, and alignment manifests swiftly. Struggle delays by affirming lack. Alignment hastens by affirming abundance. Alignment is not passivity but precise action. The aligned individual does not sit idly, waiting without direction. They listen inwardly, they receive intuitive guidance, and they act in harmony with that guidance. Their actions are efficient. Their steps are sure, because they are carried by the current of divine law. The struggler acts blindly, hoping that frantic motion will produce results. The aligned one acts calmly, knowing that each movement is divinely directed. The struggler wastes energy, the aligned one multiplies results. In alignment, time compresses. What others accomplish through years of struggle can be accomplished in hours by one who is aligned. This is not because they are more deserving, but because they have ceased to oppose the law with doubt, fear, and contradiction. They have placed themselves in the flow of substance, and substance rushes to manifest. The struggler stands against the current, exhausting themselves in resistance. The aligned one moves with the current, carried swiftly to manifestation. Alignment requires inner order. To speak abundance while inwardly holding fear is misalignment. To declare prosperity while secretly doubting is misalignment. Words and thoughts must be in harmony for the command to carry power. When thought affirms lack and speech declares wealth, the signals conflict, and the universe reflects confusion. But when thought, speech, and feeling are united in faith, the command is perfect, and manifestation follows with precision. Alignment is not partial agreement, but complete harmony between the inner and the outer word. The atmosphere of alignment is peace. The aligned one does not wrestle with appearances, does not chase after results, does not argue with circumstance. They stand still in the knowing that the law is already at work. Peace itself is a magnet for supply, for peace proves trust, and trust activates the law. Struggle emanates fear, and fear scatters supply. Peace emanates certainty, and certainty draws abundance like iron to a magnet. The calm master of words manifests more in moments of alignment than the struggler does in years of labor. Alignment is a surrender not to weakness, but to law. To surrender struggle is not to abandon effort, but to abandon resistance. The aligned one does not resist appearances with anxiety, they overrule them with command. They do not resist delay with fear, they shorten it with faith. They do not resist lack with panic, they dissolve it with declaration. Resistance feeds the appearance, alignment dissolves it. By aligning with divine law, one calls forth substance to act immediately, because the law is never inactive, never unwilling, never distant. The greatest works of manifestation have never been born of struggle but of alignment. Wealth flows to the one who aligns inwardly before acting outwardly. Opportunities appear to the one who listens inwardly before moving outwardly. Success crowns the one who speaks in harmony with law rather than fighting against shadows. Struggle belongs to the one who believes life is an enemy to be conquered. Alignment belongs to the one who knows life is a servant to be directed. The struggler spends their strength in battle, the aligned one spends their word in command. To align with abundance is to see it as natural, inevitable, and immediate. The struggler sees wealth as extraordinary, rare, or unfairly distributed. The aligned one sees wealth as law, as the natural state of the universe, as the rightful inheritance of every soul. In this recognition, money flows easily, because it is no longer resisted by disbelief. To see abundance as natural is to invite it, to see it as unnatural is to reject it. Alignment is agreement with the truth that supply is endless. Struggle is argument against that truth, and every argument delays manifestation. Alignment is also gratitude, for gratitude proves recognition of abundance. The struggler complains, and complaint commands lack to persist. The aligned one gives thanks even before supply appears, knowing that their word is already law in the unseen. Gratitude in advance is alignment, and it multiplies supply by affirming its certainty. Gratitude after manifestation is acknowledgement, but gratitude before manifestation is command. The one who thanks in advance aligns with the law, and the law rushes to fulfill their thanksgiving. The struggle mentality asks, what if it does not come? The aligned mentality says, it is already here. Struggle begs, pleads, and bargains, as though supply must be convinced. Alignment speaks with authority, as though supply cannot resist. Struggle is rooted in fear of lack. Alignment is rooted in recognition of fullness. Struggle sees absence and fights to fill it. Alignment sees presence and declares it into form. This difference in perspective determines the speed of manifestation. The rhythm of alignment is effortless flow. It is like a river carrying the boat without strain. The struggler rows furiously against the current, exhausting themselves with little progress. The aligned one releases the oars, sets the direction with command, and lets the current carry them. The river does not resist. It was always meant to carry. The universe does not resist. It was always meant to provide. Struggle is an attempt to do with human force what the law of life accomplishes with ease. Alignment allows the law to act, and the results appear with astonishing speed. There is a divine law of supply that never fails, though many live their lives as if lack were the master. They dwell in shadows, counting coins, fearing the next bill, waiting for the world to give them permission to prosper. But abundance is not a beggar at the world's door. It is a royal guest, awaiting your invitation. The world is governed by invisible laws, and one of the greatest is the law of prosperity. It does not move by chance or favor. It answers to faith as surely as an echo answers a sound. There comes a time, a single golden moment, when a person must stand and speak the word of abundance, and the universe bends to listen. This is such a moment. It is not a whisper from chance, it is a summons from the infinite. You may have believed that wealth belongs to the few, that fortune is a game of luck, that security must be earned with strain and fear. But all such beliefs are but paper walls, ready to fall at the touch of truth. Wealth is a state of consciousness, and every soul is heir to the kingdom of supply. When the mind is lifted from fear to faith, from doubt to knowing, the doors of supply swing wide. A person may work hard all their life and yet remain poor, not because supply is lacking, but because they have not spoken their divine word of prosperity. They may strive, plead, calculate, and struggle, but until their thought is in harmony with abundance, they walk in circles. One clear word spoken in faith can do what years of effort cannot. Prosperity does not come to those who chase it in panic. It comes to those who call it in certainty. When you declare, "Divine supply is my birthright," you are not making a wish, you are remembering a law. This message is not a promise of future hope, but a mirror revealing the wealth already prepared for you. Life is generous. The infinite never withholds, it only awaits your recognition. As a seed cannot bloom until the soil welcomes it, so supply cannot manifest until the mind accepts it. There is no lack in the infinite, only closed doors in human thought. Open the door now, and supply will rush in like sunlight through a lifted curtain. The turning point comes when fear is dismissed as a lie and prosperity is claimed as truth. When you speak with the voice of authority, every chain of limitation begins to loosen. The tide turns not by effort, but by alignment. The invisible becomes visible, and what was once distant begins to pour into your life with ease. This message comes but once to those who are ready to hear it. It is the voice that awakens sleeping faith, the trumpet that calls abundance out of hiding. Those who answer will not return to old ways, for once the light of prosperity is seen, it cannot be unseen. The door stands open. The choice is yours. Abundance is a divine law, not a privilege. It is not something earned by a chosen few, nor reserved for the fortunate or the favored. It is the natural order of life, flowing as freely as air, as constant as the sun rising over the horizon. Just as no one can own the light of the morning, no one can truly monopolize the abundance of the universe. It exists as an eternal river, ready to fill every vessel that is open to receive it. Lack is not the natural state, abundance is. Poverty is a false appearance, a shadow cast by fear and disbelief, while prosperity is the truth shining behind it. The world may seem to offer wealth to some and deny it to others, but that is only because human consciousness builds walls where divine law knows only doors. When one believes that abundance is limited, they build invisible fences around their own life. When one accepts abundance as divine law, those fences dissolve like mist. The universe is impartial, it has no favorites. It responds to faith, to the clear recognition that supply is ever-present and infinite. The laws that govern prosperity are as exact and dependable as the law of gravity. They do not bend for some and break for others. They operate through belief, through spoken word, through the unwavering conviction that abundance is already here. There are those who labor endlessly, straining for a taste of prosperity, believing they must earn their right to have enough. They toil, they worry, they count every step, and yet their hands remain half empty. Not because abundance is lacking, but because they believe it is. They hold their cups so tightly, so fearfully, that nothing can pour into it. Divine law does not reward desperation. It answers certainty. When the heart stands still and declares, "Abundance is mine by divine right," the whole structure of thought shifts. The mind ceases to chase and begins to claim. Abundance is woven into the fabric of existence. A tree does not beg for sunlight. It stretches its leaves in full faith that the sun will shine. The river does not wonder if it will reach the sea. It flows in confidence, for that is its law. In the same way, human beings were not created to live in fear of scarcity. They were born under the law of divine supply, meant to live in a world that answers faith with provision. When one aligns their thought with this truth, the outer world begins to change to reflect it. The substance of life moves in harmony with the conviction of the mind. Many people have been taught to believe that wealth belongs to others, that it is a reward handed out by systems, status, or luck. They speak of opportunity as if it is a fragile thing, offered to a chosen few while others must wait in line. But divine law is not bound by human systems. It does not ask permission from banks, employers, or circumstances. It moves through channels both seen and unseen, and it is never blocked, except by human disbelief. Those who awaken to this truth step out of the long line and claim their inheritance directly from the source. To know abundance as law is to stand in unshakable faith, even when appearances speak of lack. For appearances are shadows, and shadows cannot bind truth. The field may look bare, but the seed is already in the soil. The account may seem empty, but the supply has already been spoken into existence. Faith does not wait for proof. It creates proof. When the heart declares abundance as fact, the world bends to fulfill it. This is not imagination. It is law, as exact as mathematics, as certain as cause and effect. The mind that believes abundance is a privilege will always live in comparison, in fear of what others have, in the restless thought that someone else's gain is their loss. But the mind that understands abundance as divine law lives in calm assurance. It does not compete, it commands. It does not envy, it expects. It does not grasp, it receives. Prosperity flows not through struggle but through alignment with truth. The ocean of supply cannot be emptied by one person's cup. There is more than enough for all, and this is the law that governs creation itself. This understanding changes everything. It shifts a person from begging to claiming, from doubt to knowing, from fear to faith. When one begins to live in harmony with this law, their words change, their actions change, their energy changes. They no longer say, "I hope things work out." They say, "I know supply is here now." Their faith becomes a magnet that draws substance to form. Opportunities, ideas, resources, and open doors begin to gather around them, not as miracles of chance, but as the natural response of divine law being recognized and activated. One does not need to ask if they are worthy of abundance. Worthiness is not measured by effort, nor by history, nor by social rank. Divine law does not consult personal records, it responds to belief. The sun does not decide who may receive its warmth. It shines, so does abundance. If a person closes the curtains, the room grows dark, but the sun has not gone. It is the same with prosperity. When doubt and fear draw the curtains of the mind, supply seems distant. When faith throws them open, the light floods in. This truth is simple, but it is also profound. It does not require permission, it requires recognition. When you know that abundance is divine law, you stop treating prosperity as something fragile, distant, or uncertain. You speak your word as a creator, not a beggar. You stop fearing what can be lost because you finally understand what cannot be taken away. The flow of supply is constant, waiting only for your agreement with it. It is a law older than human memory, stronger than circumstance, untouched by fear, and as dependable as the beating of your own heart. Wealth begins in consciousness, not labor. It is not born from hours spent in struggle, from hands that never rest, from a mind burdened with worry. Wealth is first conceived in thought long before it appears in form. The outer world is only the mirror, the reflection of what has already been accepted inwardly. One may toil endlessly and remain poor, while another, resting in calm certainty, draws prosperity with ease. The difference is not in effort, but in awareness. Wealth begins as an inner state, an invisible knowing that abundance already belongs to you by divine law. When the mind receives this truth, circumstances begin to shape themselves to match it. Many people believe that money is earned only by hard labor, as if the universe were a strict master granting reward in proportion to pain. But divine law does not operate through struggle. It operates through belief and alignment. There are countless stories of those who worked endlessly yet remained in lack, while others, often with less effort, found doors swinging open with ease. The difference lies not in chance, but in consciousness. Prosperity is not a payment for suffering, it is a response to thought. When the inner pattern changes, the outer world obeys. The world has taught people to chase wealth as if it were an elusive animal. They run, grasp, compete, and exhaust themselves, hoping to catch it. But true wealth is not hunted, it is attracted. It is drawn to the mind that holds it as a living reality. Thoughts of lack, fear, and doubt are like closed gates that keep supply at a distance. Thoughts of abundance, confidence, and certainty are like open doors through which prosperity walks in. One can labor day and night, but if the door of consciousness remains shut, nothing flows through. The seed of every fortune begins in the soil of the mind. A person may begin with nothing visible, but if they hold the image of abundance with unwavering faith, life begins to rearrange itself to match that image. New ideas appear, opportunities reveal themselves, paths unfold. Another person may begin with much but live in fear of losing it, and soon find everything slipping away. The cause is not found in the external world, but in the quiet realm of thought. Wealth answers consciousness the way a shadow answers light. The mistake of many lies in believing that effort alone is the source. They believe more hours mean more prosperity, more strain means more success, more worry means more control. But they end up trapped in cycles of exhaustion, building walls with their own hands while trying to open doors. The universe does not pay for sweat. It responds to certainty. It responds to the mind that already holds wealth as real, not as a distant hope. When you know wealth is already yours in consciousness, the pressure to force results dissolves, and life begins to flow toward you instead of away from you. Thought is the foundation upon which all material things are built. Every building began as a vision in someone's mind, before a single brick was laid. Every fortune began as a belief in its possibility, before a coin was counted. Labor is the tool, but thought is the blueprint. A worker can build endlessly, but if the design is one of scarcity, the structure will never rise higher than the limits set in thought. A mind that sees only survival can labor for a lifetime and still grasp at crumbs. A mind that sees abundance will call forth wealth even from what seems like nothing. When wealth is understood as consciousness, labor becomes light. Work ceases to be a desperate grasp for security and becomes an expression of abundance already possessed. There is a quiet power in this. You no longer work to earn the right to live. You work from the knowing that the universe has already provided. This shift changes the nature of effort itself. What was once a weight becomes a channel through which prosperity flows easily. The mind that believes in abundance turns even ordinary actions into golden bridges for supply. Many people wear their struggle as a badge, believing hardship is a sign of worthiness, but divine law does not reward pain, it reflects thought. A field does not give more harvest because a farmer worries more. It yields because the seed was planted and the law of growth is constant. Likewise, prosperity does not come because someone suffers enough. It comes because their inner soil is ready. Wealth is an inner reality first, and once it is established within, no external force can hold it back. When a person begins to live as if wealth is already theirs, something profound happens. Their words shift, their posture changes. They stop chasing opportunities with frantic energy and start receiving them with calm authority. They stop fearing the future and begin to create it. This quiet certainty is not arrogance, it is alignment with divine law. It is knowing that the source of supply is not a paycheck, not a business, not a single person, but the infinite flow itself. Those who anchor their trust in that flow attract wealth in ways they could never have planned. Wealth is not in the gold itself, nor in the numbers in an account, nor in possessions. Those are merely symbols of the inner state. A person can possess much and still live in fear, and fear always calls lack to the door. Another may have little, but walk in a consciousness so rich that the outer world is compelled to rise and meet it. This is why sudden shifts happen to those who awaken to abundance within. Promotions appear, businesses flourish, debts dissolve, and new streams of supply emerge. These are not accidents. They are the reflection of the new image held within. The outer world is obedient. It cannot argue with the image impressed upon it. It will take the shape of the thought that governs it, just as water fills the mold into which it is poured. If the mold is lack, the shape will be small and strained. If the mold is abundance, the shape will be wide and overflowing. Wealth begins in consciousness, so to change wealth, one must change the mold. This is the true work, the silent work, the unseen work that determines everything else. When the consciousness of wealth takes root, even simple actions produce multiplied results. Small beginnings turn into great expansions because the force behind them is not fear, but faith. The person who lives in this consciousness no longer doubts the outcome of their efforts. They move with assurance, knowing that the invisible has already said yes. The visible merely follows. Wealth is not created by pushing against the world, but by allowing the world to mirror the certainty within. Labor without consciousness builds walls of effort. Consciousness without labor builds dreams with no bridge. But consciousness first, then labor, builds empires that stand with ease. Those who know this law rise without struggle. They stop fighting for what is already theirs. They stop measuring their worth by exhaustion. They begin to create from the inside out, and wealth begins to follow them like a shadow that cannot detach from its source. This is the hidden power that turns ordinary people into magnets of prosperity, not by force, but by law. One word of faith outweighs years of struggle. There is a power in a single declaration spoken in absolute certainty that can dissolve what years of effort could not touch. Struggle is a language of fear, but faith is the language of divine law. Where effort reaches a wall, faith opens a door. Many people spend their lives pushing against closed gates, believing that more labor, more strain, more sleepless nights will finally force them to open. Yet the gate does not yield to pressure. It swings at the sound of a single word spoken with unshakable belief. Faith is not a wish whispered into the air. It is a command issued in alignment with divine order, and divine order never fails to respond. There are those who think success is a mountain to be climbed step by weary step. They measure progress by how much they can endure, how long they can struggle, how much they can sacrifice. They believe the universe is a taskmaster, waiting to be impressed. But divine law is not moved by the volume of effort, it is moved by the vibration of faith. A person can spend decades struggling and remain at the same threshold. But one moment of absolute conviction can shatter the barrier. Faith carries a force that effort cannot match. It does not push, it transforms. The universe is not impressed by how hard you work against it. It responds to how clearly you agree with it. Effort without faith is like rowing upstream endlessly. Faith is turning the boat and letting the current carry you. Struggle often comes from the belief that lack is real, that provision must be wrestled from an unwilling world. Faith comes from the knowing that supply is already present, waiting for recognition. When that recognition comes, the weight of years can vanish in a single breath. What seemed impossible becomes natural, not because the world changed, but because your inner stance did. There is great beauty in this law because it frees the soul from endless strain. People have been taught to believe that their worth is proven by suffering, that blessings must be earned by sweat. But divine supply does not answer to pain, it answers to faith. One word of clear, unwavering faith cuts through the fog of fear like a blade through mist. It does not beg, plead, or hope. It declares, and the universe echoes that declaration with form and substance. Faith does not struggle for results, it rests in the certainty that results are inevitable. Years of struggle may build resistance, but they rarely build faith. Struggle often speaks the language of doubt, repeating silently, "I hope something will happen." Faith speaks the language of truth, saying, "It has already happened." This difference in tone is everything. The world mirrors thought, and thought, clothed in doubt, creates delays and detours, while thought clothed in faith brings swift alignment. One word spoken in this state carries a weight that effort can never accumulate. It is like striking a key that unlocks what no amount of pounding could open. Many people try to compensate for their lack of belief with more action. They pile task upon task, trying to drown out their fear with motion. But if the foundation is built on doubt, no amount of building will make it stand. A single clear word of faith, however, spoken from the core of certainty, is a foundation upon which anything can rise. It is not the loudness of the voice that matters, but the clarity of the conviction behind it. Even a whisper of faith is louder to the universe than a lifetime of fearful noise. This is why there are moments when everything changes in an instant. People call them miracles, luck, or sudden turns of fortune, but they are none of those things. They are the visible world bowing to a hidden word of faith. Someone finally stops struggling and begins to believe, not halfway, not with trembling hope, but with full command. And in that moment, obstacles that once seemed like stone crumble like sand. The years melt away, The gate opens without a sound. Faith has spoken, and the universe has answered. David Borg. Faith does not calculate the how, when, or where. It does not demand proof before it believes. It declares the outcome is already settled. Struggle tries to bend reality to its will. Faith knows reality will bend itself once the word is spoken. Struggle lives in time, measuring effort in hours, days, and years. Faith stands outside of time, for what is certain does not need to wait. One word of faith is like planting a seed in perfect soil. It carries the life of the harvest within it. No amount of digging in barren ground can compare. When faith speaks, it does not ask the world to agree, it instructs it. It is not timid, it is not uncertain. Faith knows its authority and uses it without apology. Those who speak this way do not wait for signs, they become the sign. They do not chase proof, they are the proof. Years of toil may exhaust the body and cloud the mind, but one word of faith clears the air like a sudden wind, sweeping away the heaviness of long struggle. The impossible bows to this kind of certainty. This truth is why some rise swiftly while others remain stuck despite endless effort. The difference is not in luck or opportunity. It is in the force of their inner word. Faith does not need to shout to be heard. It needs only to be absolute. Even the faintest word, when spoken in alignment with divine law, is louder than the roar of all human struggle. The universe is not deaf to faith. It is built to obey it. When a person finally reaches the point where they stop fighting and start declaring, everything changes. Their energy shifts from striving to commanding, from fearing to knowing. The heavy chains of effort fall away, and they stand in the authority they were always meant to hold. One word of faith does what no army of restless effort can achieve. It is not bound by time, not limited by circumstance, not hindered by appearances. It goes straight to the root, and once the root obeys, the branches must follow. Many have tried to force their way to prosperity, banging on doors that were never meant to be forced. But faith does not knock, it speaks, and the door opens of its own accord. This is why the greatest turning points in life come quietly, not with the noise of effort, but with the calm certainty of a spoken truth. One word can cancel years of fear, reverse years of lack, and rewrite what seemed carved in stone. Faith does not work through the slow grind of struggle, it works through the instant shift of alignment. To live in this understanding is to stop measuring progress by effort and begin measuring it by conviction. It is to stop fearing the weight of the journey and start trusting the power of the word. It is to know that the years you thought were lost to struggle can be redeemed in a single moment of faith. That moment is not fragile, it is unshakable, because it is rooted in divine law, and divine law is not moved by time or resistance. Faith once spoken is already answered. It is the world that must catch. Up supply flows where fear is dismissed. Fear is the great dam that blocks the current of abundance, the unseen wall between what is already prepared and what has yet to appear. Supply itself is constant, a river that never runs dry, but fear clogs the channel through which it moves. It disguises itself as caution, logic, realism, and prudence, whispering that it is protecting you. But in truth, it is shutting the door to the very thing you seek. The moment fear is cast out, even silently, supply rushes in like a river released from its barrier. The universe does not withhold. It simply waits for the mind to stop resisting. Fear is not power, though it often pretends to be. It is only a shadow, a distortion of thought, an echo of lack pretending to be real. When people live in fear of not having enough, they speak and act as if lack were the law of life. They tighten their grip, close their hands, shrink their expectations, and then wonder why nothing grows. Supply flows to the open hand, not the clenched fist. It moves where it is welcomed, not where it is feared. The fear of lack does not create security, it creates more lack, because the mind is commanding the universe to mirror its fear. Fear often dresses itself in convincing clothing. It says, be realistic, when what it truly means is expect less. It says, be careful, when it truly means do not trust. It says, you might lose, when it really means you were never meant to win. But fear is a liar. It cannot create, it can only constrict. The universe is generous, but it will not force its way past the wall of a fearful heart. Faith opens doors, fear nails them shut. When fear is dismissed, not with argument but with quiet certainty, supply moves effortlessly, because it was never absent, only blocked. People often believe they must earn their supply through endless effort, but what they are really trying to do is outrun their fear. They work harder, not because supply requires it, but because fear drives them like a restless master. But fear can never be outrun, it must be dismissed. Once fear is gone, supply flows naturally, just as light flows naturally. Just as light flows naturally by the curtain being opened. It was always there. Supply is the same. Fear is only the curtain. There are countless stories of doors opening the moment fear is released. A person may spend years grasping for opportunities, holding on tightly, calculating every step, only to see no change. But the instant they stop fearing, the very opportunity they were desperate for arrives. This is not coincidence, it is law. The universe cannot deliver abundance to a fearful mind because fear is declaring lack louder than any words can declare faith. When the declaration of lack stops, the natural order of supply is restored. Fear creates a vibration that pushes supply away. It is like a fortress built out of invisible stone, and within it abundance cannot enter. Even when blessings stand at the gate, fear bars the door. It is not the world withholding, it is the mind refusing to let it in. And yet, this wall is not real. It can crumble the instant you stop believing in it. Fear has no strength on its own. It feeds on the energy you give it. Withdraw that energy, and it fades like mist. The moment that happens, the flow of supply begins to move again. Supply is loyal to faith, not fear. It does not respond to begging, worrying, or desperation. These are signals of disbelief, and the universe mirrors belief precisely. If your heart says, I am not sure, the universe says, then I will wait. If your heart says, I trust, the universe says, then here it is. Fear delays what faith allows. Every fearful thought is like a stone placed in the river, slowing its flow. Every faith-filled word is like removing those stones, letting the current move freely. The supply was always present, waiting just beyond the wall. Fear creates the illusion of scarcity. It whispers that there is not enough to go around, that opportunities are limited, that abundance belongs to someone else. And so people build their lives around this lie, competing, grasping, hoarding, distrusting. But supply is infinite, and fear is the only thing making it seem small. When fear is dismissed, eyes begin to see what was always there. Doors, chances, ideas, paths that were hidden behind the fog of anxiety. The universe has never been the enemy. Fear has only been the blindfold. The dismissal of fear is not done through struggle, but through clarity. You do not need to wrestle fear into silence. You simply stop agreeing with it. Fear thrives on agreement, on the silent nod of belief that says, you might be right. When that nod is withdrawn, fear has nothing to stand on. The mind that once trembled begins to stand firm, and the flow of supply responds instantly. The outer world shifts because the inner stance has changed. Fear was the only thing keeping the door closed. Many people believe they must see supply before they can stop fearing. But this is reversed. Supply is seen after fear is dismissed. Waiting for proof before releasing fear is like waiting for the door to open before turning the handle. Fear is the lock and faith is the key. The universe does not need convincing, it needs permission. The permission is granted the moment fear is silenced. When fear is dismissed, action becomes light and effortless. Work is no longer driven by desperation but by certainty. Decisions are no longer made from panic but from clarity. You stop hoarding and start flowing. You stop shrinking and start expanding. And in that expansion, supply begins to multiply, not because it was absent before, but because you finally allowed it in. The fearful heart cannot hold abundance, but the fearless heart cannot help but attract it. Fear often disguises itself as responsibility. It tells people that worry is a form of care, that panic is preparation, that doubt is intelligence. But these are lies spoken softly. True responsibility is trust in the divine order, trust in the unbroken flow of supply. When you dismiss fear, you are not being reckless. You are aligning yourself with truth. Truth is abundant, and fear has no place within it. When fear is dismissed, even silence speaks abundance. You no longer have to push the river. You allow it to carry you. You no longer grasp for opportunities. Opportunities are drawn to you. This is why those who walk in faith often appear calm in situations that terrify others. They are not blind to the world, they simply see beyond it. They know that fear is the only thing between them and the flow, and they refuse to give it power. The universe has no shortage, no hesitation, no reluctance. It is only the mind, tangled in fear, that hesitates. Dismiss the fear, and you dismiss the hesitation. The supply that seemed far away begins to arrive, swiftly and steadily, as if it had been waiting just outside the door the entire time. Fear was never a wall of iron, only a curtain of smoke. One breath of faith and it vanishes, and in the clear air that follows, supply flows without resistance, without delay, without limit. Prosperity is claimed, not chased. It does not reward the frantic hands that grasp, but the steady heart that stands in certainty. Prosperity is not a fugitive running from you. It is a loyal servant awaiting your command. Those who spend their lives chasing wealth treat it as something distant, as if it belonged to another realm or another kind of person. But prosperity is not out there in the distance. It is already here, waiting for recognition. To chase is to affirm that it is far away. To claim is to declare that it belongs to you now. The difference between the two is the difference between exhaustion and ease. When a person chases prosperity, they are announcing their lack. They are saying through every thought and movement, "I do not have this yet." That belief is mirrored back to them again and again, and so they run faster, push harder, grasp tighter, never realizing that the act of chasing keeps the prize forever ahead of them. Prosperity responds not to pursuit, but to possession. It does not come because it is hunted down. It comes because it is claimed with authority. Claiming is not a plea. It is not a hope. It is a statement of divine right. The universe is not a marketplace where prosperity must be bargained for. It is a law that answers certainty. A claimant does not run after what is theirs. They stand still and speak the word that draws it in. Prosperity does not ask to be chased. It asks to be acknowledged. When the mind says, "This is already mine," doors begin to open in quiet obedience. Opportunities turn toward the one who stands with ownership in their spirit. To claim is to align with the law of abundance. To chase is to fight against it. Chasing creates distance. Every step taken in desperation stretches the space between desire and possession. The universe listens not to words alone, but to the vibration beneath them. When the vibration says, "I lack," the world reflects that back without error. When it says, "I already hold this," the reflection arrives in form. Claiming is not about demanding something from outside. It is about accepting something that is already within reach. Prosperity is not an intruder to be captured. It is a rightful guest waiting to be invited in. Many spend their lives striving, believing that the more they chase, the more they will catch. They fill their days with endless movement, restless planning, sleepless nights. But prosperity is never caught that way. It is like a shadow that steps back every time you run toward it. Yet when you stop, when you claim your ground, when you stand in stillness, the shadow stands with you. Prosperity does not respond to panic. It responds to poise. It does not follow fear. It follows faith. Claiming prosperity is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is knowing that abundance is not earned through frantic effort but accepted through recognition. You do not chase the air to breathe. You breathe because the air is already here. Prosperity works the same way. It surrounds you, waiting to be claimed, and it flows toward the one who understands its nature. The chase is an illusion born of doubt. The claim is the truth born of divine law. A person who chases prosperity believes in its scarcity. They believe it must be fought for, outwitted, or taken from someone else. A person who claims prosperity believes in its infinity. They know it cannot be lost or stolen because it flows from an inexhaustible source. When you chase, you are saying the source is outside you. When you claim, you are saying the source flows through you. This is why claiming carries such power. It is not grasping at shadows. It is speaking from the throne of inheritance. Prosperity does not need pursuit. It needs recognition. The one who claims prosperity walks differently. Their steps are firm. Their words carry quiet authority. They do not plead with the universe. They instruct it with their certainty. Their energy does not scatter in 1,000 directions. It gathers itself and stands still. And in that stillness, everything they once chased begins to turn and move toward them. Prosperity is drawn to certainty the way iron is drawn to a magnet. To chase is to live in the future, always waiting for the moment when abundance might arrive. To claim is to live in the present, knowing it is already here. This shift in consciousness is the turning point. When the mind declares, "I already have it," the world begins to rearrange itself to match that declaration. Paths open, opportunities appear, ideas awaken, people arrive. Prosperity is not being created in that moment, it is being allowed. The chase ends where the claim begins. People often confuse movement with power. They believe that running faster will get them closer to what they want. But speed without alignment leads nowhere. A single word of claim carries more weight than 1,000 steps of pursuit. Prosperity listens to the language of authority, not the noise of desperation. It does not respond to the one who begs, it responds to the one who knows. And knowing is quiet. Knowing does not chase. Knowing stands. Claiming prosperity is not about demanding riches from a reluctant universe. It is about acknowledging a law that already exists. Just as gravity does not need to be persuaded to work, prosperity does not need to be convinced to flow. It is already flowing. It is only the chasing mind that cannot see it. When you claim, the fog of striving clears, and the path becomes visible. The flow was always there. You only needed to stop running long enough to feel it. A chaser is always tired. They move with urgency, measuring every moment by what they have not yet received. Their energy is scattered, their words uncertain, their heart heavy with doubt. A claimant moves with lightness. They are not striving, they are receiving. They speak less and mean more. They act with precision, not panic. They know their claim is already recognized by the law of abundance, and that knowing becomes the anchor upon which everything else rests. Claiming prosperity requires nothing but faith. No chasing, no forcing, no grasping. It requires standing in the truth that abundance is your birthright. The universe is not testing your worthiness, it is waiting for your claim. Those who chase keep the finish line forever out of reach. Those who claim realize the finish line was beneath their feet all along. When prosperity is claimed, action becomes a channel, not a chase. You no longer run after results, results flow through what you do. Ideas arise without strain, doors open without struggle, people are drawn to your certainty, opportunities are attracted to your stillness. This is not magic, it is law. Prosperity answers to the one who claims it because claiming is the language of faith, and faith moves everything. Prosperity is not impressed by chasing, it is commanded by claiming. The one who understands this stops running and begins receiving. They do not look for signs, they become the sign. They no longer seek proof, their certainty is the proof. They speak once and the universe obeys, not because they forced it to, but because they finally stopped chasing what was already theirs. They stood still, claimed their inheritance, and the river of supply, which had always been flowing, turned its current toward them. Beloved friends, life is not a struggle, it is not a battle, it is a game. A game of magnificent laws, and when you learn to play it rightly, the universe itself rushes forward to place treasures at your feet. Riches are not created by toil alone, nor by fear, nor by desperate grasping. Riches come when you align with the invisible, when you speak with authority the word that sets substance in motion. The unseen is the source, and all that you can hold in your hand must first be held in your thought. Your wealth is not there, hiding in some distant corner. It is already within you, vibrating, pressing to appear in visible form. Speak the word of abundance, and the tide of provision answers. Declare prosperity, and watch the doors swing wide. The universe hears the confident voice and obeys. Many walk in poverty because they rehearse poverty. They speak of lack, they picture limitation, and then they wonder why their purse is empty. But the law is precise: what you prepare for with your words, and your faith is exactly what comes. If you prepare for scarcity, scarcity must show itself. If you prepare for overflowing treasure, then overflowing treasure cannot be kept from you. You'll be so rich it's scary, because when you once touch the river of supply, you will marvel at how swiftly, how effortlessly, the channels of wealth open. Fear will whisper, "This is too much for you. Surely you do not deserve such increase." Yet you must answer fear with faith. Fear is only the shadow cast by ignorance. Faith is the light that dissolves it. Do not beg, do not strain, do not push. Simply stand and declare, "Infinite substance is my unfailing source of supply. Prosperity is mine, wealth is mine, and I walk in abundance now." These words are not idle. They are commands, and they stir the great invisible storehouse into action. The riches that come are not only gold and silver, not merely houses and lands, though these too are included. Riches are health of body, peace of mind, love that enfolds you, opportunities that multiply, right doors opening at the right time. True wealth is complete, and when you align with it, you cannot be half supplied, you must be full supplied. Some will look at your sudden increase and say, "Surely this is a miracle." And indeed, it is. But miracles are simply the natural outworking of divine law. What seems startling is only the inevitable result of correct alignment. The riches were always there, waiting for recognition. So I say to you, let your word be strong. Let your vision be clear. Do not measure your fortune by the small coin in your hand, but by the limitless supply behind it. Prepare to be astonished. For when you believe in abundance, when you declare it with certainty, the universe must deliver. You'll be so rich it's scary. And that is the proof that the law has been obeyed. Wealth begins in thought and spoken word. For every visible form you see around you once lived first in the realm of imagination and utterance. The house was once an idea. The business was once a dream. The field of golden harvest was once a vision carried by a farmer who believed in the seed. Nothing can enter your experience until it has first been admitted into the secret chamber of your mind and then confirmed by the sound of your own declaration. Your thought is the architect, your words are the builders, and the structure of your life takes shape exactly in the image you consistently design. When you say, "I lack," you lay a foundation of lack. When you say, "I prosper," you summon all the invisible resources of the universe to bring prosperity into form. The world is ruled not by chance, not by accident, but by the precision of law. The law responds to vibration, and vibration is generated by thought wrapped in feeling, then released through the spoken word. Every sentence you utter is like a seed cast into the fertile soil of the universe, and each seed bears fruit after its kind. Speak of trouble and more trouble appears. Speak of wealth and wealth begins its journey toward you. People often wonder why prayers seem unanswered, why affirmations seem delayed. Yet they forget that their every idle word also has creative force. They cancel their riches with constant complaints. They uproot their harvest with declarations of doubt. You cannot plant roses in the morning and trample them in the afternoon and expect blossoms to appear. So too, you cannot affirm prosperity once and then repeatedly affirm poverty with worry and despair. The mind is a workshop, but words are the command. You may imagine wealth, but if your speech contradicts your vision, the vision falters. To say, "I cannot afford," is to strike down the very abundance preparing to enter. To say, "I always succeed," is to fling wide the gates for opportunity. Your words carry the authority of law because they reveal your inner agreement, and the universe takes you at your agreement. No external power resists you. The only resistance comes from within when you attempt to serve both fear and faith with the same tongue. Consider the child who pretends in play to be a king. He may hold a stick as a scepter, wear a blanket as a robe, and declare himself ruler of the realm. Though nothing outwardly changes, his imagination and his words bring forth a kingdom in which he moves with authority. That same law governs adults, though they often forget. If you speak continually of debt, the kingdom of debt expands. If you speak continually of wealth, the kingdom of wealth begins to rise around you. Your circumstances bend to your speech just as surely as the child's imagination bends to his proclamation. The subconscious mind, that silent servant, does not argue, does not analyze, but accepts the repeated word as fact. If you declare, "Money flows to me with ease," the subconscious begins to arrange conditions to support it. If you declare, "I am always struggling," the subconscious obediently ensures your life aligns with struggle. It is not a matter of superstition but of deep law. The subconscious is the soil, the word is the seed, and the harvest cannot be other than the seed planted. So many individuals sabotage themselves by careless words. They greet one another with tales of misfortune. They affirm illness with each conversation. They confirm lack with every sigh of complaint. They do not realize they are weaving garments of poverty for themselves, thread by thread, word by word. Yet the moment one awakens and becomes a watchman over speech, life begins to change. To stand guard at the door of the lips is to become the master of fortune. Each word can be chosen as one chooses coins to spend, and wise words purchase wise outcomes. Wealth begins in thought, yet thought without spoken confirmation remains as vapor. To think, "I am prosperous," is to shape the invisible, but to declare aloud, "I am prosperous now," is to call the invisible into substance. The vibration of the spoken word carries power far beyond silent musing. Sound waves ripple through the unseen and set in motion forces eager to obey. Ancient wisdom knew this, for the act of speaking was always tied to creation. The very first movements of existence were spoken into being, and that principle remains unbroken. There is no limitation to what words may shape, but they must be aligned with unwavering thought. If you whisper abundance in one moment and cry out despair the next, the forces that serve you receive conflicting orders. Just as a builder cannot follow two blueprints at once, the universe cannot deliver both wealth and poverty to the same address. Your steady speech is the map by which your supply arrives. If you wish for the river of prosperity to flow, you must continually declare its presence, speak of its abundance, and refuse to give voice to the mirage of lack. It is a discipline, yet a liberating one. Each time you restrain a word of fear, you cancel a crop of poverty. Each time you release a word of faith, you plant a seed of increase. Over days, then weeks, then months, these seeds break the surface and bear fruit. People will call it coincidence, but you will know it is the harvest of your own declaration. Do not wait for wealth to appear before speaking of it. That is like waiting for the lamp to burn before striking the match. Speak first, believe first, declare first, and the visible will conform to the invisible. Many remain trapped because they speak only what they see, and since they see lack, they speak lack, and so lack repeats itself endlessly. The wise speak what they choose to see, not what they presently behold. They use words as bridges to the unseen, calling the future into the present, summoning wealth from the invisible storehouse of substance into the tangible realm. Every fortune built in the material world was first a fortune built in words. Every empire was once a declaration. Every breakthrough was once an affirmation spoken with confidence. You too hold that same authority, for the law is impartial. It does not choose one above another, it responds alike to all. The rich are those who have spoken riches into being. The poor are those who have spoken poverty without ceasing. And the moment you change your words, you change your path. Faith dissolves fear and unlocks abundance, for fear is only the shadow of false belief. a phantom with no true substance except what the mind lends to it, while faith is the blazing light that reveals the shadow to be nothing at all. Fear chains the imagination to images of loss, lack, failure, and danger, while faith lifts the imagination to behold supply, opportunity, success, and safety. The two cannot dwell together, for when one enters, the other must depart. To walk in fear is to shut the doors of prosperity, but to walk in faith is to open them wide so that abundance flows in unhindered. When one allows fear to dominate thought, words of defeat follow, and conditions of defeat manifest. The frightened mind speaks of debts, speaks of illness, speaks of closed doors and barren fields. And because the word is creative, those very conditions appear. Fear believes in lack, and so it builds lack. Fear believes in limitation, and so it forges chains. Fear believes in misfortune, and so it invites calamity. Yet faith does the opposite with equal force. Faith believes in supply, and so multiplies it. Faith believes in freedom, and so breaks every chain. Faith believes in good fortune, and so draws miracles into daily experience. Fear is always borrowed from the past or projected into the future, never found in the eternal present, while faith dwells eternally in the now. The fearful mind rehearses yesterday's wounds and tomorrow's disasters, but faith declares, "Here and now I am provided for, here and now the infinite source sustains me. Here and now the way is open." This simple turning of attention from dread to trust transforms the atmosphere of life, for the law responds not to what one hopes timidly, but to what one declares boldly. Abundance does not come by effort alone, for effort mixed with fear is heavy labor with little reward. A man may toil by the sweat of his brow while fear whispers, "It will never be enough," and so it is never enough. But when faith is present, the smallest effort bears multiplied results. For the vibration of faith attracts opportunities unseen by the anxious eye. Faith does not struggle, it knows. Faith does not beg, it commands. Faith stands calmly in the assurance that supply is flowing, that wealth is unfolding, that unseen forces are arranging everything for good. Fear clouds the vision so that opportunities are missed, doors are ignored, and treasures are passed by unnoticed. Faith clears the vision so that the hidden path is revealed, the right door is recognized, and the treasures shine unmistakably. Two people may face the same circumstance. One filled with fear declares, "This is the end. Nothing can be done," while the one filled with faith declares, "This is the turning point. A greater good is about to emerge." The law responds accordingly, and each receives the harvest of the seed they have planted. The fearful person clings tightly, hoards, withholds, and by withholding blocks the flow of circulation, and soon their storehouse is empty. The faithful person gives freely, spends freely, shares freely, knowing that the river of supply is inexhaustible, and because they trust, more flows in as they let more flow out. Fear dams the river, faith opens the gates. Fear is contraction, faith is expansion. Fear closes the hand, faith extends it. Fear says, "What if I lose?" Faith says, "What if I gain?" Every thought of fear must be met with the word of faith, spoken aloud with authority, until the vibration of faith dissolves the illusion. When the heart trembles at lack, declare, "Infinite substance sustains me." When the mind imagines failure, declare, "Success is mine by divine right." When the lips tremble with worry, let them instead proclaim, "I walk in abundance now." Fear cannot withstand repeated affirmations of faith, for faith carries the power of truth, while fear is only a lie pretending to have power. Fear creates tension in the body, weariness in the mind, heaviness in the spirit. Faith brings rest to the body, clarity to the mind, and peace to the spirit. The one who lives in faith walks with lightness, for they know they are upheld by an unseen hand. The one who lives in fear is bent under invisible burdens, dragged down by thoughts of what might go wrong. Yet the burdens are self-made, and the moment faith is chosen, the burdens fall away. Faith is not blind optimism, it is recognition of the unseen order of good. Fear believes in disorder, chaos, and chance. Faith perceives harmony, guidance, and law. Faith knows that supply comes from a source beyond the limited channels of man, so it does not falter when one channel closes, but waits confidently for another to open. Fear clings desperately to the visible, and when the visible crumbles, it believes all is lost. Faith leans on the invisible, which can never be taken away, and so it never truly loses. The wealth that faith unlocks is not only coins and possessions, though those surely come, it is also the wealth of courage, the wealth of health, the wealth of strong relationships, the wealth of joy, the wealth of peace. Fear strips even the wealthy of these treasures, leaving them restless and anxious. Faith bestows them freely, making even the smallest coin sufficient to bring contentment, and often multiplying that coin into many. Fear shrinks every blessing. Faith enlarges every blessing. One may test this law in the smallest matters. Approach a task with fear, expecting it to fail, and watch how obstacles multiply. Approach the same task with faith, declaring it succeeds, and see how obstacles melt and assistance appears. Walk into a room with fear, and the air feels heavy, others withdraw, opportunities vanish. Walk into a room with faith, and the air feels light. Others are drawn to you, doors open in unexpected ways. This is not imagination but the precise working of vibration. For others sense unconsciously what you radiate, and conditions respond accordingly. Fear speaks the language of limitation. I can't. I won't. I'd never. Faith speaks the language of abundance. I can. It will. It always. The language you choose becomes the atmosphere you breathe and the destiny you create. Fear builds prisons with its words, and many live within those prisons all their lives, never realizing the key is faith waiting within their own speech. Faith does not demand proof before believing, for it knows belief itself is the cause of proof. Fear demands proof before acting, and so remains forever paralyzed. Faith steps boldly and the ground appears beneath its feet. Fear waits for the ground to appear first, and so never takes a step. The one who lives in faith moves forward into abundance, while the one who lives in fear stays rooted in lack. Fear is noisy, clamoring, restless, never satisfied. Faith is calm, quiet, steady, immovable. Fear imagines 10,000 disasters, faith beholds one certain outcome, good. Fear scatters energy in all directions. Faith gathers energy into one powerful focus. Fear shrinks the field of possibility until only failure seems visible. Faith expands the field of possibility until success shines everywhere. To dissolve fear is not to resist it with equal force, for resistance strengthens it. To dissolve fear is to turn on the light of faith, to speak the word of abundance until the shadow fades away. A room does not struggle against darkness, it simply receives the light. In the same way, the mind does not need to wrestle fear endlessly. It needs only to speak and affirm faith, and fear flees of its own accord. Prosperity flows effortlessly when aligned with divine law, for abundance is the natural current of the universe, always moving, always circulating, always seeking channels through which to express itself. It is only when one resists, doubts, or contradicts this law that the current appears blocked. Just as a river flows downhill without strain, so too does prosperity flow without effort, when one stands in harmony with the principle that governs it. Striving, grasping, and anxious labor are unnecessary, for the law itself carries the wealth of the universe to those who allow themselves to receive. The world often teaches that prosperity is earned through endless toil, sleepless striving, and ruthless competition. But such beliefs are contrary to the higher order of life. These beliefs are born of fear, and fear always interrupts the flow. True prosperity does not come by force but by alignment. When one aligns thought, word, and action with the invisible order of good, the results unfold with a grace that seems miraculous. Doors open, opportunities arise, people appear at the right moment, and supply flows in perfect measure. What others achieve with exhausting struggle, the one aligned with divine law achieves with ease and joy. The divine law is exact and impartial. It responds not to begging, not to desperation, not to frantic effort, but to vibration and agreement. When the vibration of abundance is established in thought and confirmed in word, the law must provide circumstances that match it. It does not withhold. It does not delay. It does not choose favorites. The law is like the law of gravity, consistent, dependable, unwavering. When you release a word of prosperity, it is like releasing a seed into fertile ground. It does not question whether the seed is worthy to grow. It simply grows because the law has been set in motion. Those who chase prosperity through struggle often find themselves exhausted and dissatisfied, for their struggle itself is a declaration of lack. The one who toils while believing, "I must fight to survive," declares survival but never abundance. Yet the one who moves with faith, saying, "I live in a universe of endless supply," finds that supply flows to them in ways beyond expectation. To align with the law is to drop resistance, to release worry, to let go of the constant rehearsing of lack. It is to affirm instead the presence of supply, to give thanks for what is unseen as though it were already visible, and to act as one who knows provision is guaranteed. Consider the farmer who plants seed in fertile soil. He does not dig it up each day to check whether it is growing. He does not stay awake at night in anxiety over the harvest. He knows the law of growth will not fail him if the seed is rightly planted, the soil rightly tended, and the seasons rightly trusted. So too is prosperity once the thought, and the word have been planted in alignment with divine law, the growth is inevitable. Anxiety interrupts the process, but faith allows it to unfold in perfect order. Prosperity is not limited to money, though money is one of its channels. Prosperity is harmony in all areas of life. It is health in the body, peace in the mind, joy in the spirit, love in relationships, and success in endeavors. When aligned with divine law, all these elements flow together. For divine law never brings increase in one area only to bring loss in another. True prosperity is whole, balanced, and complete. One cannot be truly prosperous while poor in spirit, nor truly abundant while burdened by fear. Alignment with the law ensures that abundance touches every part of existence. The effortless flow of prosperity reveals itself most clearly when one acts without anxiety. A decision made in worry is often a decision made in error. But a decision made in faith, in calm assurance of supply, carries with it the current of right timing and right action. Divine law arranges conditions so that even apparent obstacles are transformed into stepping stones. What seems a delay becomes preparation. What seems a loss becomes gain. What seems a closed door becomes the redirection to a greater door. This effortless unfolding is the hallmark of alignment. One may observe how nature herself displays this law. The sun does not struggle to shine. It radiates by its nature. The tree does not force its branches upward. It grows in harmony with the law of life. The river does not strain to move forward. It flows by the pull of gravity. In the same way, prosperity does not require strain. It requires alignment. When humans resist with fear, doubt, or constant declaration of lack, they step out of the natural flow. But when they trust, affirm, and act in harmony with supply, they return to the effortless rhythm that governs all creation. This law is often described as circulation, for prosperity is not stagnant but ever moving. To hold too tightly to what one has is to block the current, but to give freely is to keep the current alive. Money, opportunities, relationships, all prosper when allowed to circulate. Divine law ensures that whatever is given in faith returns multiplied. To align with the law is to live with open hands, knowing that as you release, more flows back to you. The miser who clutches his coin finds that the stream dries up, while the generous giver finds that rivers of increase pour in. Many wonder why some seem to attract prosperity with ease while others labor endlessly without result. The difference lies in alignment. The one who aligns thought and speech with abundance attracts it naturally, without visible struggle. The one who clings to fear, doubt, and words of limitation attracts the very conditions they dread. Divine law does not choose. It simply delivers the harvest of whatever seed has been sown. If you sow struggle, you reap struggle. If you sow abundance, you reap abundance. Alignment requires watchfulness. Each word must be weighed, each thought examined, each feeling tested against the law of abundance. When fear whispers, "There is not enough," alignment answers, "The universe is inexhaustible." When doubt says, "This may not work," Alignment replies, everything works together for my good. When lack suggests, you must hold tightly, alignment affirms, I give freely and receive freely. With each such affirmation, the channel of prosperity clears, and the current begins to move without obstruction. Prosperity flows effortlessly when aligned with divine law, because divine law is abundance itself. There is no effort in breathing once the lungs are open, no struggle in seeing once the eyes are cleared, no fight in hearing once the ears are attuned. In the same way, there is no struggle in receiving prosperity once the heart and mind are aligned with the truth that abundance is the very fabric of existence. True riches include health, peace, love, and opportunity, for wealth is never complete if it rests only in coin or gold. Many possess treasure in the bank yet are poor in spirit, anxious in mind, weak in body, and lonely in heart, and such a life cannot be called abundance. True prosperity is wholeness, the overflowing of good in every part of existence. The riches that endure are those which cannot be stolen, rusted, or diminished, for they spring from alignment with the unseen source and flow outward into every visible form. Health is one of the greatest of riches, for without it no treasure can be enjoyed. A body weighed down by sickness turns even luxury into misery. But when the body is strong and vibrant, even the simplest meal tastes like a feast, and even the smallest dwelling feels like a palace. Health is not only the absence of illness but the presence of energy, vitality, and balance. It is the ability to rise each day ready for the tasks of life, to walk freely, to breathe deeply, to move with ease. Health comes when one aligns not with fear of disease, but with the assurance of life's sustaining power. Words of health, thoughts of vitality, and the inner conviction that strength is one's birthright open the channels for the body to renew and restore itself. Peace of mind is another essential treasure, for even the wealthiest person can be restless, fearful, and tormented by worry. Peace is the silent gold that enriches every experience. It is the calm center that remains unmoved no matter what storms rage outside. The one who possesses peace walks steadily through difficulties and is never shaken by appearances. Peace allows sleep to be deep, decisions to be wise, and relationships to be harmonious. Without peace, riches are consumed by anxiety, but with peace, even modest possessions carry joy. Peace is cultivated by trusting the divine order of life, by releasing fear, and by holding fast to the knowledge that all things are working together for good. Love is perhaps the greatest wealth of all, for it is the substance of life itself. Love fills the heart with joy, connects souls together, and transforms ordinary days into radiant experiences. Without love, wealth is barren and empty. Love in friendship, in family, in romance, in community. Each form enriches the spirit and multiplies life's blessings. To give love is to expand, to receive love is to be nourished, and to live in love is to dwell in abundance that surpasses all material treasure. Love cannot be bought or bargained for. Yet it attracts prosperity in all its forms, for the one who radiates love becomes a magnet for good. Love heals wounds, dissolves fear, strengthens bonds, and opens doors that force could never move. Opportunity is also a form of wealth, for it is the gateway to expansion. The most abundant storehouse of treasure is of little use if there is no opportunity to employ it. Opportunity comes when one is aligned with divine law, for life constantly opens new paths to those who are ready to walk them. Every challenge holds within it an opportunity disguised, and every ending conceals a beginning. To live richly is to recognize these openings and step forward in faith. Opportunity multiplies when the mind is trained to expect it. While others complain of closed doors, the prosperous soul declares that the right door always opens at the right time, and so it does. True riches are never confined to one sphere. They touch the body, the mind, the heart, and the path of life. A balanced abundance is the mark of alignment, for divine law does not provide wealth in one area while depriving another. It is wholeness, a complete prosperity that overflows. One may have money and lack peace, and thus is still poor. One may have health but live in loneliness, and thus is still lacking. True riches ensure that all parts of life are nourished. When health, peace, love, and opportunity are present together, life becomes radiant. The days flow with harmony, and the nights rest in security. The individual becomes a beacon, shining abundance outward, blessing others by presence alone. This wholeness radiates into work, into family, into every encounter, and multiplies prosperity for all who come near. Others sense it without words, for true riches cannot be hidden. They shine through the eyes, they vibrate in the voice, they emanate in the atmosphere around a person. To seek only money is to miss the greater treasure. Money may be lost, but true riches remain. The body in alignment with life restores itself again and again. The mind anchored in peace remains steady even when possessions vanish. The heart filled with love finds joy no matter the circumstance. The soul attuned to opportunity sees doors open in the very midst of loss. These treasures cannot be taken, for they are not dependent on the shifting world, but on the eternal law that governs all. Yet money, too, joins this abundance when the other riches are present, for wealth in all forms is part of wholeness. The one who is healthy has strength to labor and create. The one who is peaceful has clarity to make wise choices. The one who is loving builds networks of support and goodwill. The one who recognizes opportunity steps boldly into prosperity. Thus material wealth becomes a natural outgrowth of the other treasures. It is not the foundation of prosperity, but the fruit of it. Alignment with divine law ensures that these riches flow together as one. When the thought is abundant, the word is abundant, the feeling is abundant. The result must be abundant in every sphere. Health is drawn, peace is maintained, love is multiplied, opportunities arise, and material supply accompanies them. This is the picture of true wealth, a life balanced, overflowing, radiant, sustained by the unseen source and expressed in every visible way. Miracles of supply are natural outcomes of right vision. For what the world calls miraculous is in truth the inevitable working of divine law. When thought, word, and expectation are aligned with abundance, the unseen substance of life takes form in ways that appear astonishing to the untrained eye. The universe holds no lack, no shortage, no withholding. All around is infinite supply waiting for recognition, and when one sees rightly, that supply rushes forth in channels unexpected, swift, and precise. The miracle is not the breaking of law, but the fulfillment of it. And what seems extraordinary is simply the natural fruit of right alignment. Right vision is the ability to see beyond appearances, to behold not what is presently visible, but what is eternally true. The fearful eye sees lack and closes in upon it, but the eye of faith perceives abundance, even when circumstances declare emptiness. To hold this vision steadily is to open the door through which supply enters. The one who insists on seeing only limitation remains bound by it, but the one who insists on seeing abundance calls abundance into form. The miracle is not chance. It is the law answering the clear and unwavering vision held within the mind. Supply manifests where it is expected. The one who looks out upon the world believing in shortage finds shortage multiplied. The one who looks out declaring that opportunity is everywhere finds doors opening on every side. The vision one carries shapes the reality one experiences, and when the vision is corrected to align with divine order, miracles follow as naturally as dawn follows night. People call it luck, coincidence, or fortune. Yet it is simply the law doing its perfect work in response to right vision. The miracles of supply often appear through unexpected channels. A gift arrives, a debt is cancelled, a new position opens, an idea unfolds, a stranger offers assistance, a door once closed swings wide. To those without understanding it appears sudden, mysterious, and unexplainable. But to the one who knows the law, it is no mystery at all. The unseen substance was always there, waiting for a channel, and when vision was aligned, the channel appeared. The miracle is not in the supply itself, but in the shift of consciousness that allowed it to come forth. Right vision never asks how, for the how belongs to the law. The mind that is constantly worrying over methods, means, and timing steps out of alignment and delays the manifestation. The vision must be held with calm certainty, without questioning, without interfering, without demanding the manner in which supply shall come. Just as a farmer plants a seed and trusts the law of growth without prying into the soil each day, so too must one plant the vision of prosperity and trust the unseen process. The miracle of harvest is not in question once the seed is rightly sown. Every great invention, every breakthrough, every sudden increase that has ever blessed humanity has been the result of someone holding a vision others could not see. Where the multitude saw impossibility, one individual saw possibility, and because the vision was held, substance conformed to it. What the world then called a miracle was simply the law answering unwavering vision. In the same way, every individual can call forth miracles of supply by holding fast to the image of abundance, by refusing to release it to doubt, by speaking it as though it were already accomplished. The vision must be clear and consistent. To waver is to delay. To mix faith with fear is to muddy the stream. If one moment you declare prosperity and the next moment you lament lack, the supply cannot flow smoothly. The vision must be tended daily with affirmations of abundance, with gratitude for unseen provision, with confident expectation. The more steadfast the vision, the swifter the miracle appears. Miracles of supply are not limited to money, though money is often included. They appear as health restored, as opportunities multiplied, as relationships healed, as peace returned. Supply is anything that nourishes, sustains, and expands life. A timely word of encouragement, a chance encounter that leads to blessing, a sudden idea that resolves a difficulty, these are all miracles of supply. They may seem small at first, but they accumulate, weaving together a life rich in provision. Gratitude is the companion of right vision. To give thanks for what is unseen, as though it were already present, is to strengthen the vision and quicken the supply. Gratitude affirms the reality of abundance, while complaint affirms the illusion of lack. Each word of thanks is a seed of prosperity, and each word of complaint is a weed that chokes it. To live in continual gratitude is to live in continual miracles, for the law responds to the vibration of appreciation with multiplied blessings. Miracles of supply often arrive at the last moment, just when the visible situation appears most desperate. This is not because the law delays, but because faith must be stretched to its full measure. When one continues to hold vision in the face of seeming loss, the breakthrough comes with a force that astonishes. The supply appears just when all seemed hopeless, and the heart learns that trust in the law is never in vain. What seemed like a late arrival is in truth perfect timing, for the law never fails, and the miracle always meets the need at the exact hour required. Right vision lifts one out of fear. When the eyes are fixed on appearances of debt, illness, or misfortune, the heart trembles and energy is drained. But when the inner vision holds firmly to abundance, the heart is steady and energy is renewed. This inner steadiness allows one to act wisely, to seize opportunity, to speak words of faith instead of fear. Thus the miracle is hastened. For conditions respond more quickly to a calm and confident spirit than to a restless and anxious one. The law does not ask whether one deserves supply. It asks only whether the vision is aligned. Just as the sun shines on all alike, so too does supply flow to any who see it clearly and call it forth. Miracles are not rewards for virtue but responses to vision. The vision of abundance cannot be denied, for the law must clothe it with substance. This is why those who expect miracles see them often, while those who doubt them rarely experience them. The difference is not in favor but in vision. Every individual holds the power to invite miracles of supply. The process is simple yet profound. Hold the vision of abundance, speak it with certainty. Feel it as though it were already here, give thanks for it daily, and refuse to let appearances of lack disturb the picture. The more consistently this is practiced, the more natural the miracles become. Soon what once seemed extraordinary is recognized as the normal flow of life, and prosperity becomes a steady company.